Tim Burton at the time was a very hot director coming off a big film.
That big film was Batman, and the buzz around town was that Tom Cruise, then the hottest box office star in the world, was on the fast track to play the role of Edward Scissorhands.
I'd been sent an early version of Edward Scissorhands, the script, to read. When I read it, I thought of only one person for the movie, and that was Johnny. Look, the paparazzi are relentless. I think Johnny's never going to court them, ever. I think he never has. He's never going to. That's just a fact of life. You know, as long as he's famous, they're going to be around.
Hello, everybody. This is WINO Forever, the Deeppening podcast. Such a long title. when I forget to say it every time. My name is Sarah. We are on episode 19, and we are going to detour slightly back to the Tracy Jacobs saga. We're going to go ahead and finish up with the cross-examination of Mr. Benjamin Chew, an attorney for Johnny Depp. I am joined by Mr. Arm. How are you?
Like a butterfly, I will collect you and capture you. You're my obsession.
You still have that in your head.
Obsession. Who do you want me to be to make me sleep with me?
Okay.
Well, I can see Camilla dancing to that song. I really can.
I'm looking at my background for this episode. All you see is like his Luke Perry forehead. I didn't space this properly.
Depp's Luke Perry forehead?
Yeah. Can you see the screen?
I got to put the screen back up.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No, I say it. I say it.
Okay. And the top of her head. I did a banger job on this one.
Oh my God, that's a great that is a Luke Perry forehead. You're right. I remember when he got interviewed, and the 90210 thing first exploded. By the way, it's kind of a knockoff of Jump Street in many ways. We've gone over that a little bit here, but that might beg for an episode down the road. 90210 knocking off. Perry is basically the Greco of 90210, and they asked Luke Perry about. He's like, "Aren't you? You think you guys are too old to be playing high school students?" He's like, just. The line of my foreheads, if I just get rid of the lines of my forehead, I might be able to pull it off.
You know why he had those, right?
I mean, it's farm boy.
Well, yeah, he worked on like the road crew and didn't properly.
He laid asphalt, right, or something, and he have like a blue collar.
Yeah, he didn't
Get
properly.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2 weeks into getting to Hollywood.
Exactly, but he didn't use the proper sunscreen. Why did it take me I had such a struggle looking for the word sunscreen in my brain. So this is going to be really interesting, this episode. Okay.
The reason I sang that song is we got down on Michael Day Bar rabbit hole, and you did such a nice job incorporating that clip I gave you from Jump Street.
I realized I didn't put the audio in, and that was the whole point of our discussion. No, I had the clip. The clip is in there, just the scene. I will put the audio in this episode.
He goes, "Oh my God, it's so vital to the start
of that. Don't worry, it will be covered." Okay.
Drop it! Drop it!
I know.
Love makes a man weak, Mr. Hardigan. I learned that early on, but you never learned it at all.
The audio is going to be edited in here, like either right now or 2 seconds before you said that. So they're going to have to hear that same audio.
Perfect statement. to sum up his pussy fog and the succubus.
Yeah.
So prophetic, that Michael Day
Oh,
bar.
we'll put it in now, and that'll be a good lead up to your Depp news.
How did you take the audio out? How did you do that? How
I
does that
muted it,
happen?
and I just put the scene.
Oh my God! No one's gonna know the context behind
You
it. and-
probably we talked about it. You can hear what we're talking about as it's playing.
Okay.
Don't worry. Okay,
I
let's
want
go.
that back in, friend.
Well, fire me, please. I can get 12 hours a week back into my life.
The editing you do is, well, you said at one point you woke up at 4 a.m. to,
Every time I have to get these out. The day that
and
I
it's
post
like,
these episodes, I've been up since 3:30 or 4. I took today off to get the last episode up. Not really. That's not the reason, but I decided to do it today on my day off. We have Depp news.
yeah, it's not that big a deal. It's very, very minimal, very redundant. Almost don't want to read it again with effing Minamata.
No, I don't know this, so go ahead.
It's the same thing. It's the same. This is what. Remember that rant I went on last episode of how it never stops being released, and they constantly write stories about it's Minimod is released. It's going to be released for the next 10 years. There's going to be an article on this thing getting released for 10 years in a row, and that MGM was stopping it initially with the director Andrew Levitas accusing MGM of burying the movie and everything. So now it actually they they identify where it's being released.
Okay.
So let me see if I can find.
I saw a map. I saw Portland looks like it's going to be released. That's the closest
Is it
one
in the
to me.
mix?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw the little pin on the map.
I've
It
seen
appeared
it
to be
already.
Portland.
I could care less.
I've already watched it. I don't need to go see it.
And you have it.
I do somewhere, yeah. I have the non-subtitled version, so I really had to
Levitas
work.
gave you the version of yeah.
I had to work to watch this movie. There's a scene that they confront the head honcho at the factory. I don't know what they said, but it looked pretty dramatic.
So all this is again, this is so redundant. This, by the way, I think I'm going to put a moratorium on Minamata from now. This is the last time I'm reading anything from this. I'm so tired of the redundant. It's getting boring now with this effing, not only a stupid movie, but this crazy struggle and to get the truth out and we don't. I mean, if it's only being okay, now I'll really read this thing. Minamata, the Andrew Levitas film starring Johnny Depp, is getting a U.S. theatrical release. We said this 3 weeks in a row. This weekend, February 11th, with 27 runs, a full year after it was first, look at this word, skedded for U.S. screens. You ever see that word? Skedded? No. Skedded. Every episode of The Deeppening, WINO forever, you learn a new word. Recalcitrant, we were obsessed with that. So this week it's Deeppening heads. Look up skedded. Skedded. Which I'm assuming is a euphemism for schedule.
Yeah.
That Deadline chose to look really smart. Depp plays Eugene Smith, the famed photojournalist who was disconnected from the world but takes a final assignment from his Life magazine editor, Bill Nighy, who, by the way, was in Pirates. See, it's always Depp cronyism, Deppetism in every movie. Bill Nighy was in Pirates, one of the Pirates. So he's a buddy of his, and you can never ever see a movie where he's not pulling in somebody from 1971 to travel to Japan and expose. He's good in the movie. He's the guy who plays his boss at Life when he walks in. That cool scene when it's the 70s in New York and he walks in off the street and that's his boss at Life. Like his condescending J. Jonah Jameson type of boss, or Perry White, whichever you want to. 1971, to travel to Japan, exposed decades of horrific corporate malfeasance by a big chemical company. It's important. It's a very important issue in movie propelled by a big star whose image took a big tumble amid an ugly shrapnel of his wife-beater libel suit, dooming the film to a much-delayed release and small opening run. It's playing now in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Toronto, San Francisco, Boston, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Houston, Seattle,
Okay.
Tampa Bay, Miami, Denver, Cleveland, Orlando, Sacramento, Portland, I guess the NBA Pacific
Okay.
Division, Raleigh, Charlotte, Knoxville, Austin, Albuquerque, Cincinnati, Miramar, and Owensboro.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm just kidding. Distributor Samuel Goldwyn Films said expansion is to be determined. SGF with Ervolino and Lady Bacardi Entertainment, ILBE, announced in early December that they acquired the North American rights, which previously belonged to MGM. Minamata premiered at the Berlin Film Festival in 2020. MGM had initially slated a U.S. release in February of 2021. That came and went. Its release in international markets. In July, Levitas was publicly protesting that MGM was burying Minamata due to Depp's well-publicized off-screen issues. Probably was. In August, Depp also decried the non-release, saying that the film deserved to be seen, but was shelved because he was being boycotted by Hollywood. Depp has been embroiled in a long legal battle with his ex-wife Amber Heard. Last spring, the actor lost his attempt to overturn the UK ruling that concluded that he had assaulted his ex-wife. A judge ruled against Depp in his libel case against Rupert Murdoch, the Sun's tabloid, for calling him a, quote, wife beater. Warner Brothers dropped the actor from the Fantastic Beasts franchise following the failed appeal. Last August, a Virginia judge ruled that Depp could proceed in a separate $50 million defamation lawsuit against her. In an interview with Deadline, Levitas reiterated that his disappointment that the film wasn't out sooner, given the import of its subject matter. Not important, import. Giving the import of its subject matter, says Deadline. In this instance, you have the opportunity to make change, to really help and support people like the Minamata victims. It's 50 years later, and they're still fighting to be recognized in Japan. Others around the world are waging similar parts per million battles. Everything you drink or eat now is determined on whether it's allowed or not. It's not parts per million or of arsenic in water, of mercury in water, or whatever. I'm glad you're so passionate that you throw whatever in it. You know, mercury, poison, arsenic, whatever. Just make me rich. When Smith arrived at the coastal city of Minamata, Chisakor factory had been dumping ground for mercury poison on the wastewater into the bay for 3 decades, ravaging locals for the fish they are. One of Smith's many images. Tomoko in her bath of a mother cradling her severely deformed daughter is considered iconic in photojournalism. W. Eugene Smith died in 1978. Levitas found his way into the film through the extensive W. Eugene Smith archive at the Center for Creative Photography in Arizona. That's a weird... What is he doing? Who's poking around the Creative Photography Center in Arizona? What a weird cat. While I'm watching a doubleheader on TBS and TNT, this guy's poking around in photography centers in Arizona. How do you even get for every photo published, he said, there are 100 photos in front of and behind that. It's a wonderful opportunity to get inside the artist's mind and see what he saw and follow his story in real time. Yeah, very noble film, but one theater per city. This is 27 total theaters. What is it going to make?
I don't know.
What is it going to? Why even bother?
I think it's a difficult movie to get much of an audience anyway on a normal day. It's not a superhero movie.
No, if this were 1995, why can't he be? Like I said, it could be a superhero movie. Let's have him get mercury. He takes in the mercury or arsenic.
Oh my God.
And then becomes Eugene Man. The power of Japanese fish. And then you have a crossover with Aquaman. There's a lot you could do here. So yeah, that's it on that. Again, I don't know how much we thought the last 3 times we covered this, it seemed to be released last week, the week before. It will continue to be released for the next 5 years in all to write a new article. and they'll choose different cities. The movie will never be fully released, is what I'm coming to get. I think if I'm Levitas, I'm like going, or Depitas, I'm going, good. It's more publicity for the movie. Every time we have to print another article how it's this staggered release, it's more publicity. It's more people that will latch on to it. I'd almost be happy about it, right? It's like a constant, irritating promotion that never stops.
Yeah.
And you
It
got to
feels
see
like
the press Depp's doing for the movie. They do it together, so they do it via Zoom, and it's just this really just morose kind of softball interviews, and they're for outlets that you'd never even heard of and seen. And I look at that and I always say to myself, what who who's watching this? And as far as besides the sycophants, the Depphead sycophants like us, and how is this pushing? You know what I mean? It's not a mainstream anything, and it's like, how much is this helping get this movie out? This Zoom interview with some weird. There's like 3 of them, and they're just sort of floundering out there, and
well, I kind of agree with you. The topic's getting stale, so
I
I'm
want the
tired
movie
of
to
I'm
do
tired of
well,
hearing about
but
the movie.
I'm tired of it.
I do
This is
too.
a moratorium on Minamata. Never again.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. What do we got in the Herdogram news, or do we?
Okay, well, she tweeted today, and this is
Oh, is it a tweet? Okay.
it's a picture of her demon seed looking over like
Looks like a cliff.
is it a cliff?
I don't know, but there's a suspended bridge. It
And she's
appears.
trying to look like a daredevil, almost like the set of Aquaman 2,
Yeah. Well,
the
if you look
Lost
at, I
King.
sent you the comments on Twitter that she's unable to block, and a lot of talk about Photoshop. I'll post it here.
I didn't even see I just saw the ass kissers. I just thought the girl
I sent you a
squad.
link.
Huh? Want to pull those up? Because I must have it in a phone or something.
No, don't worry about it. I'll post it
But it's
here later.
the name of the tweet. The tweet simply says, "Me and my co-pilot,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's her demon seed, and it's almost everything she does looks like a troll. It looks like she's trying to
Well, like
piss
when things are
off.
not going good, she posts pictures of the baby.
Yes, that's a great deflection for everything you do. Yep,
Yeah.
throw the kids a human shield in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here it is. So, SAN, Justice for Johnny Depp. I don't know what this symbols are over it. It's
I
probably
don't know.
from, Malaysia or something. He's got so many foreign fans. It's crazy. Failing at Photoshop skills is like failing at an acting career. Crying, laughing. Sorry for posting. Nobody's face, but this is laughable. And then she posts, that's pretty funny. Me and my co-pilot, and she zooms on her face.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Queen of Hearts writes back. What happened to her upper lip area? It's very strange looking. The area under the chin is pretty bad Photoshop too. Is her hair much darker now? Ha ha! Classic
Well,
Queen of Hearts.
I thought her Photoshop skills were like almost elite. Like a judge in
Yeah.
the United Kingdom accepted them, so maybe she just
Justice
had
for
a bad
Johnny.
day.
Where the lip meets the nose, and then Neverland. I guess there's ways. Some people she doesn't have. This may have been posted under the influence, I feel. I have filtered selfies myself. A little too much wine, and I think I look really great in that moment. Big fail. That's from Neverland, Celia.
She also could have deformed her inner lips with all
Yeah.
that cocaine she would inject with the tampon applicator.
How many you're obsessed with chemical peels, right? How many chemical peels do you think she had?
I don't know, but she's had some silicone
Collagen.
sacks. No, some silicone beanbags put in those cheeks.
Speaking of which, blah by due day. What is these names? How do you come up with these names?
I don't know.
Can't. Okay, is she indicating the cheek implants or the baby as the co-pilot? Because those cheek implants seem ready to take flight all on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp Justice Project writes, glad I clicked on this. What a fucking mess that Photoshop is. Isn't Io Tillett claimed to be like a Photoshop expert of some kind?
Oh, I haven't heard that. No.
Or Rocky Pennington, or one of those stupid ne'er-do-well friends using his pen houses.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's a graphic designer now, right? Everyone's a
Well, they
guitarist and a graphic
they make
designer.
jewelry out of cheap
Beads.
oh god, Diane or the fabric store beads. That's how they
Yes.
live.
Joanne's? Oh.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Diane's.
How did I know that?
I don't know. This is not a good
Take
way to do
away
an
my
episode today.
man card. I know what Joanne's is. Nita, whose rum is always gone. It's got a Waldman Hornswoggle warrior. Good God. Out comes the prop baby. Expect to see a lot more of it until the end of the trial. Valeria, why does this baby look like some sad little Victorian orphan child? Mimi, baby pics mean things aren't going well, so I'll take it as that. So true. Look at this blur too. I bet she wants to blur out some witness statements as well from Justice for Johnny Depp. SAR. And then you'll love this next one. For cake's sake, right? She photographed her mouth out, and it shows Betty White and not Estelle Getty. Who played Blanche again?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
How dare you? Rue McClanahan.
No. Yes. Rue McClanahan and Betty White are cackling together on a couch, clasping. Am I kidding? For cake's sake, and that shoulder looks weird too. Karen Bravo Deloyes, right? Her parental lobe looks smaller. Does she have a microphally now, and her shoulder line and head both looks different parts of the world? She's lacking Photoshop skills. Epic fail, as usual. Deloyes is how you say this name. Looks like she just cut her head and pasted it to a different body. Her forehead is longer than her ski slopes. That's vintage Chrissy. And glad. Nothing here, nothing to see here. Okay, that's good enough. I seem to trail off into something else here. It's weird. Her Twitter,
They
she
usually
has
do.
the limited responses. You can't write her, right, unless she clears it, unless you were following her
No,
previously.
she has to follow you for you to respond to her.
She has to follow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm blocked, so.
So that thread you pulled up is somewhere else. It's just someone, they copied it and then started another
quote
thread
tweeted it,
to make fun. Okay. Yeah, so that's it on the news. It's very light. There's not a ton of stuff that's not clickbait crap. Another victory for Johnny Depp. Jason Momoa's got a big secret.
My favorite one that I just saw the other day was Amber Heard sentenced to 4 years in prison. Like, okay.
Really? That's an actual. I hate that. I'm not. I hate clickbait getting attention like that and people falling for it. You should report every time you waste your time on an Umbrella Guy video where he Tennessee obfuscates for 20 minutes and says absolutely nothing and then makes up this salacious headline in bold print, and it's a big effing Five Guys nothing burger. Report it. I mean, it's just like, what do you do? Stop falling for it. Stop falling for the clickbait. Stop. Nothing's happened until until this trial's all said and done. Stop believing this fake gossip. You know it's fake too. You keep. I don't know if it's just some wanting it to be true so bad that you can't stop under the hypnotized huckster spell of bold print clickbait. It's just, I mean, it's over and over. How it's not real. Stop clicking on it. Stop giving it.
We know.
Stop donating to effing Patreons as well.
Okay.
That have nothing.
You need to rest your voice. You have a lot of reading to do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this. We have a lot to cover today. So again, this is the cross-examination by Benjamin Chew of Ms. Tracy Jacobs. So this is Johnny Depp's turn to get a few licks in. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I'm
Mr.
Benjamin
Chu.
Chu. We have no idea what he sounds like. I have looked and looked and looked, and I cannot find anything on this guy speaking.
Mm-hmm. Problem is, there's about 5 different Benjamin Chus out in the world. So
I mean, it should be a common name, but okay. I don't know. Let's just try it like Willem Dafoe or somebody. And
no,
good
just read it.
afternoon, Miss Jake. What?
You just as you would go. You don't
Good
have to put on a
afternoon, Miss
voice.
Jacobs. Are you an attorney?
No,
Did you or UTA ever provide legal services to Johnny Depp?
no,
That wasn't part of the engagement for the UTA received 10% of 650 million.
correct.
Are you a CPA?
No,
Did you or UTA provide any accounting services to Mr. Depp?
no,
Did you or UTA prepare any financial statements for Mr. Depp or his companies?
no,
Did you or UTA prepare any tax returns for Mr. Depp or any of his companies?
no,
Were you or UTA responsible for filing any of his tax returns?
no.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a short series of yes or no questions. You were not present. Mr. Depp's finger was injured, correct?
Yes, correct.
Correct. You're not present when it was injured.
Correct.
And Mr. Depp never hit you or was physically violent in your presence, correct?
Correct.
And you never witnessed Mr. Depp hit anyone else in your presence, correct?
Correct.
What was the total amount? And I think I can do the math. What was the total amount that UTA received for its work over the years for Mr. Depp? Objection calls for speculation. You can answer if you know what UTA received, though.
10% of whatever it
Okay.
was he made.
And that's pretty standard. Do all agents get 10%? Sometimes it's 5. Is that the way it's usually
10, I
10?
think. 10, 15 in rare cases, I think.
And you believe you testified it was,
Approximately 650 million.
wow, 650. There it is in black and white if anybody has any doubts as to what that number is. So you would surmise it was approximately 65 million.
Correct.
Wow, so Jacobs and her agency made 65 million
Mm-hmm.
just off him as an agent.
Yep.
I wonder how that was sorted out over the years.
I don't know.
I mean, she's got to be doing really well, but she got screwed at the end. So I guess we're getting to that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it also true that Mr. Depp would buy you gifts at holiday time?
Some holidays, yes.
And you would often suggested to him the kind of gift, the particular gift you wanted, correct?
Correct.
Would he accede to your requests?
Sometimes.
What were some of the things that he bought you around the holidays?
Pens, a bracelet.
Were these expensive gifts?
I don't know. It depends what you would call expensive.
Was some of them more than $5,000?
Yes.
Was some of them more than $10,000?
Yes.
Would you say that Mr. Depp was generous to you?
Yes.
And you did not, I believe it's fair to say that you testified you did not like the way Mr. Depp dismissed you, correct? Objection! It misstates the testimony. You can answer it, though.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm ignoring you.
You, you, you thought you deserved more after all those years of service, true? Objection! Misstates the testimony, but you can answer it.
Is this the one-word answer to this?
It's a yes or no.
Yes.
And you were very angry with him at the time, true?
No.
You weren't angry when he dismissed you.
No.
Well, you referred to an interview that Mr. Depp had with Child Protective Services, correct?
Yes.
You were not present during the interview, were you?
No.
If we could go off the record just for a second. The time of the monitor is 3:43, and we are going off the record. This is media number 3, and we are off the record. Videographer, we are now back on the record 3:44. This is media number 4. Please continue. Miss Jacobs, Mr. Kump asked you about a document, series of text messages, if you could look at Exhibit 75.
Yes.
And specifically, if you could turn to UTA number 000208.
Yes.
Yes. And there's a series of texts from Yock Hughes, who I believe you previously identified was actually Mr. Depp himself.
Yes.
And maybe I misunderstood your testimony, but is it your understanding that this came from Mr. Ed White?
That's not what I said.
Okay. So your understanding is that this did come from Mr. Depp, true?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll have a stipulation. Miss, who the hell is this?
I don't know.
Miss, you gonna be Miss
Yeah, I'll read it.
Sukazian?
Yeah. I
Okay.
have maybe 10 minutes of questioning, if that's okay. Who are you representing? I'm sorry. 1 second. Let me put a mic on. You want to be Miss Sukazian?
Okay, I guess. What the hell is this? I don't even remember this. I don't know why I don't remember. Hi, Miss Jacobs. My name is Alina Sukazian. I mentioned earlier I represent cross defendants Bruce Witkin, Sal Jenco, William Rassel, and James Russo, and also Unison Music. Let me ask you this, my first question. Are you familiar with the 4 individuals I named and the entity?
Familiar with the 4 individuals. Know a little about the entity.
So here we go. This is these are his friends and close friends and family that he lent a lot of money to. And I've been mentioning this all throughout here and there on different. So I think they're going to get deeper into it here. My recollection of the transcript is not,
Okay.
it's been a little while, so they must get deep into it here. Okay. So I'm going to ask you about 4 individuals who have kind of clumped together. If I feel that I need to separate them later, I will. But I think it will be easier to talk to them all at once.
Okay.
Oh, so when I say the 4 individuals, you understand I'm talking about Bruce Witkin, Sal Jenco, James Russo, and William Rassel, correct?
Uh-huh.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
So no problem. So what is your understanding based on the relationship you had with Mr. Depp of his relationship with these 4 individuals? Objection! Vague. You can answer it though if you understand it. I don't.
I don't understand the question.
Oh, sure. I'll rephrase the question. It's been a long day. I hope you understand. Was it your understanding that Mr. Depp was friends with these individuals?
Yes.
Okay. Was it also your understanding that William Rassel is actually Johnny Depp's nephew?
Yes.
Do you know how long these individuals have been friends with or have known Mr. Depp?
A long time, but not exactly.
Just give me a rough estimate.
No.
Tracy! Okay. Is there any way? I mean, let's take it back. Do you know whether or not they've known Mr. Depp for 5 years?
Yes.
At least 10 years?
Yes.
At least 15 years?
I believe so.
So you approximately say 15 years, that's your best estimate? 15 years?
Maybe more.
Okay, based on your interaction with Mr. Depp, your conversations with him over the period of time that you work with him, was it your understanding that he had a close relationship with these 4 individuals?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Can you just elaborate as far as what your understanding was about the relationship he had with them?
Well, they're each different. Sal Jenco was his best friend who ran the Viper. Bruce Witkin was his friend who he did music with. I don't know what he did with his nephew. I believe that's Debbie's son. And James Russo was an actor who he had known for a long time.
When you mentioned Bruce Witkin, you said he did music with him? You're talking about the vampires, correct?
No.
Okay, can you tell me what band or what kind of music?
I don't know. He was always at the house, and they were always recording music with different musicians.
You could so tell throughout this. Tracy hates his refusal to just drop the music part. It didn't work. You moved there in 1983. It didn't work when you weren't famous. It's taking your attention away from the task at hand. He has so much debt and weird money problems, and the music is the bane of her existence. You could just tell. I mean, it's just so writhing in her delivery. You could hear her huffing too.
It's the end of the day too. She don't have time for this.
Yeah, the music is her. She. I could just, you could see the eye rolls. You could feel the. Okay, did Mr. Depp ever have any conversations with you about financial struggles that these four individuals were having at any point in time?
Yes.
Oh, this is so good. All right, can you just tell me a little bit more about those conversations? And if it's easier to talk about them one at a time, that's totally fine.
Well, there's only two that I can respond to.
Okay, who's the first one?
Sal Jenco, who I think he knew the longest.
Okay, and what did Johnny tell you about Sal Jenko's finance? That'd be great if the lawyer goes, oh, Blowfish! That's Blowfish!
That's Arm's avatar. On that Wino Forever podcast.
That would be so funny if the lawyer did that. That's Blowfish! God. And what did Johnny tell you about Sal Jenko's financial situation?
We haven't spoken about it in years, but when he spoke to me, he was always broke.
So this is, we've gone over the Viper Room stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We did a pretty detailed. We could even do a part 3 someday. We did do a part 3. I thought that the update on Fox was
we have
kind of
2.5 parts at least.
2.5, right? 2.5 Foxes on CBS. So we deduced that the Viper Room didn't make that much money because it had a maximum occupancy of 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Depp just had it as like a clubhouse to just have his friends come on and play. And they had, the alcohol sales and God knows what. But I don't think it made a ton of money. And I think Jenko was just kind of slipping by on the notoriety and fame from that club. I can't imagine. And we looked, recently, this is a few weeks ago, on LinkedIn, he has some kind of party service where he hosts parties for.
Oh, I saw that.
I think he cited Guns N' Roses.
Of course.
Or he sets up concert venues in addition to parties. So he's kind of like orchestrating. They have to go through them to book the venue and set up the concert venue and stuff. I can't remember the name of it. It was a very corny name. It was like Go For It. I can't remember. I got to look it up. But anyway, that's he's like on the letterhead. His like actual phone number is on there. I think I had you text him, right? Did I?
Well, I don't want to admit to that.
I tried to see if it worked. It's gotta be a cell phone number. And it's just some cornball title, like You Can Make It Happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they throw parties and concerts or something. They set up like venues for people who, and but again, I guess she'll get to it here, but I don't see them having spoken in a bunch of years, and hopefully she explains it here.
Looks like she does.
Okay, I'm on line
25.
25. Okay.
Of 214.
And when you say he spoke to you?
Johnny.
Oh, okay. You're referring to Mr. Depp. So when Mr. Depp spoke to you about Sal Jenco, the conversation was always about how Mr. Jenco was always broke. Is that correct?
Correct.
Every time.
Mm-hmm.
But Depp's so wealthy, like you'd think that he would just like throw money at him just to.
But you don't know how long he actually did that. Maybe he got tired of it. I understand that.
He was, by the way, just for people that know, Jenko was also in Donnie Brasco. If you watched anyone who watches Donnie Brasco, and hopefully you watch it once a week. He is the bartender in the very beginning of the movie when Donnie first meets Lefty, and doesn't have. I think his only speaking line in the movie goes, "Hey, Left, have a spritzer," and then he pushes the drink at him, and Pacino swats it away, and he has a lot of eye contact with Brasco, and they're in a Little Italy, I guess, social club bar on Mulberry Street, which a lot of that takes place in the late 70s. And so Jenko is there, and he's got a brief scene. You can see him. It's clearly him. I remember watching in the theater, go, "Oh my God, it's Blowfish!"
You're the only
Screamed it
person.
out in the theater. Yeah, I think I was too. The first day I saw it, and it can't be more. But anyway, you can't miss it. It's in the very beginning of the movie when Donnie and Lefty first meet. He goes, "You don't walk out on me. I walk out on you. You should sell it to your girlfriend because that's a fake." That kind of exchange when he goes, "Ask anybody about Lefty from Mulberry Street. You pissing up the wrong tree, my friend." And it's a great scene. And then after that, they embark on taking on the strip club owner who owes him a debt. Very similar to this.
Very good movie. We're going to be reviewing it shortly. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hopefully it's a Radio Gunk crossover. Monique from Radio Gunk lived next to sunny Black Napolitano in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, where the social club, the Motion Lounge is. Is there anything else that was said other than the fact that Mr. Jenko is broke?
Yes.
And what was that?
That he thought that he had basically stolen from him at the Viper Room.
Oh my God. I mean, this is so in line with our Viper Rooms. You know, this is like, I don't even know. Did we even incorporate this into the Viper Rooms?
We talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. And this all ties into the Anthony Fox stuff. Go back and listen to the Viper Room.
I think it's in part 1.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all throughout. Maybe all through.
But watch both parts. Thank you.
This is fascinating transcript.
Watch both parts 10 times and enjoy it each time.
Okay, that Mr. Jenko that Mr. Depp had thought Mr. Jenko had stolen from him from this Viper Room?
Yes.
Okay, and did he go any further detail about that conversation?
No.
Okay, so does that cover everything that Mr. Depp spoke with you about as relates to Mr. Jenko and Mr. Jenko's financial situation?
He was in his life for years, and then he was gone. So we haven't spoke about it in years.
At that time, you were representing Mr. Depp. So the entire time that you were in communication with Mr. Depp, is there anything else Mr. Depp told you about as relates to Mr. Jenko or Mr. Jenko's financial situation that you haven't mentioned already?
No.
Okay. Did Mr. Depp at any point in time ask you advice about helping Mr. Jenko in his financial situation?
No.
Did you ever give Mr. Depp advice about whether or not he should help Mr. Jenko and that financial situation he was in?
No.
Did Mr. Depp ever ultimately tell you that he did end up helping Mr. Jenko?
No.
So is it true that you're not aware of any payments that Mr. Depp may have given to Mr. Jenko at that time?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and let me just stop for a second. Okay, so if you're Sal Jenco now, to what extent do you think he knows this transcript is out there? It's not really, and we had a hard time, even me, we had to really dig for this. It wasn't like you can any civilian can look it up. It's not locked up, but you have to really know your sleuthing skills to get at this.
Let's ignore it anyway by the people that know about it.
Yeah, the Depp colored glasses, toxic positivity crowd will not acknowledge this transcript on any level. Amber Heard's people will. They tweet passages from it. They selective passages from it all the time on Twitter. I think that's how I found it.
And I say it again, and I say it way too many times, I think, in every episode, it seems. But if you're going to be dedicating hours of your week to doing a podcast on an individual, it's not fair to just cover one side. You have to cover both sides. You have to cover, like we say in the warning at the very beginning.
At least to lay out what he's up against,
Mm-hmm.
if anything. Like you're saying, like, covered, but you at least should frame this is what he's up against. This is what her side is saying, and this is what he did. I mean, a lot of the stuff he did do. So, and he's admitting to it. And so to not acknowledge it is you lose your credibility. It looks so silly.
But you have to talk about what people are saying about him. You have to cover both sides, all sides of it. There's more than two sides. You have to cover the good, the bad, the nasty, the great,
ugly.
the fantastic. It's not fair if you're going to, hope to cultivate an audience for your podcast if you're not giving them all of the information.
Yeah, and they're gonna find it sooner or later. I mean, when the stuff about him and Lily Rose and lying to Child Protective Services, and there's so many things. The Marilyn Manson stuff. I mean, there's just that is going to be emphasized in Virginia, and it makes us feel like we have our bases covered. If I'm not looking to, but we have to frame what he is full on, fully formed in 2022, and all the dirt and skeletons that are out there, because he's got caught lying a few times. And Mr. Never Feared Truth lies like we all lie. He's not the bastion of honesty. Nobody is.
And when we finally get back into the UK testimony, we're going to see that. It starts off, I think, with he's being questioned by the Sun, and a lot of things come out. So get ready. But yeah, we're going to get through Tracy Jacobs, and then we'll get back to that. But let's
this
continue with this.
transcript is the personification of
Mm-hmm.
the side you don't know, the side of him and that's why a lot of the psychotic Depp heads who don't want to acknowledge the whole story will not acknowledge this transcript on any level.
No, you're correct.
Does Tracy Jacobs have an axe to grind? Yes, you would too if he owed you $15 million.
Mm-hmm. And had no intention of even acknowledging you ever again.
And you've been with him fighting the fights, and right, since 1988.
Exactly.
No hath fewer scorn as a Tracy Jacobs scorn, or whatever the hell you want to. So is it true? Okay, we're on line 18, or Witkin.
No, we're like on 24.
Oh, we're like on 24.
Of 216.
Okay. And who's the next person?
No, did I say Bruce Witkin or James Russo?
I don't know. I think you said there were two people that you knew had the knowledge about their financial condition that Johnny spoke about.
James Russo.
And what did Mr. Depp tell you about Mr. Russo?
That he was an actor. I knew that already, and I would be constantly asked to get him jobs in movies Johnny was in.
Okay, let's just clarify for people who he is. This is an Italian character actor. He's in a ton of mob stuff. He's been around since the late 80s. In fact, I saw him in the episode with Stephen Williams of The Equalizer. I was freaked out by that. Before Jump Street, before Captain Fuller was on Jump Street, Stephen Williams was on The Equalizer, and he had actually like a decent part, and they wrote him out because it was too expensive to keep him in New York or something. So when we get him on the show, I can't wait to ask him about this. And James Russo was in the first episode with him. I think he played his partner, in fact. And so James Russo is Italian character actor. He's in a lot of stuff in the 90s, a lot of mob New York stuff. He is in Donnie Brasco again. He plays Paulie, part of the crew, part of Joe Pistone's crew. And I guess his big scene is Joe is in the car waiting for the crew to polish off Sonny Red's crew, and he sticks a gun to the back of his head and has them come in and join to bury the bodies.
Okay.
All right. So, but he's in the whole movie. You can't miss him. He's also in The Ninth Gate, which is a Tracy Jacobs hookup. I'm assuming they may not get to. And so he's been, I think, 3 or 4 things with Depp, and he's constantly, they're good friends, and he hooked him up in a bunch of his movies. Especially after Brasco. I think he met him on Brasco and then started to put him in stuff.
When you love to be his friend, you get all these jobs, and
Yep.
a
Paul
check every once
Bettany.
in a while.
Yeah. His whole nepotism is better than cronyism or nepotism.
Mm-hmm. They were on line
And
11.
was it your understanding at the time that you needed to get Mr. Russo jobs because he was not financially stable?
And because he was Johnny's friend.
Okay. Did Mr. Depp ever go into any details about Mr. Russo's financial condition at that time?
No.
Oh, so all he told you is that Mr. Russo is having financial issues, correct?
Correct.
And then he asked you to help him find him a job, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Depp tell you anything else about Mr. Russo's financial situation or anything related to that?
No.
I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked about Mr. Jenco. Did Mr. Depp ever ask you to give him advice about whether or not he should help Mr. Russo financially?
No.
Did you ever give Mr. Depp advice about helping Mr. Russo financially?
No.
Did you ever become aware of the fact that Mr. Depp ultimately did provide financial assistance to Mr. Russo?
Nope.
Okay. Earlier, you testified that Mr. Depp was generous to you, and that was in the context of, I believe Mr. Chu is asking you about the gifts that Mr. Depp bought. Let me just stop you for a minute. It's on line 15. Let me go back to that. Let me just stop for 1 minute. For anybody listening, we've gone over this a few times. I'm not expecting anybody to listen to every show we did and remember every line because you can't. We have a hard time doing it. It's the stupidest thing in the world to ask. Ridiculous expectations that anybody would remember every word. But this is important to this. In the case of Sal Jenco, Blowfish, his friend from Miramar, Florida, he's had for life, got him jobs, friends for years. He was having a huge, ugly divorce battle. So this isn't another certified document that we haven't gotten to yet. I just want to fill in the blanks here. This is what the money that she's talking about, because I don't think it's specified maybe until later, if it is at all in here. He gave him, I want to say the number's $450,000 to get through this divorce, whether it's
I
for
thought it
his
was.
own
Did you say 4? I think it was 2.
450. Was it 250?
I think it was 250.
Was Russo 450 and Jenko was
I don't
250?
know. I don't know.
It's
I just
something
remember
like that.
250.
So he had this ugly divorce, and Depp was throwing money at him to get him through the divorce. And the Viper Room theft, I don't know. It had to come after that, because why would you give him money for his divorce if he had stolen from you? You would have cut him off by that. So
I have to look it up, but
the Viper Room thievery had to come after.
it had to have been before 2004.
Right, because that's the last year he was
All we have
involved
to
in the
find out
Viper
is when he was divorced.
Right. James Russo situation was he had so much debt and was so broke, he was going to get kicked out of his house. And he had, I believe, is it 4 kids?
I
A
don't know.
wife and 2 to 4 kids. It might be 4 kids, and was about to get evicted. And Depp bailed them out to the tune of, I believe, 400 and something grand.
Wow.
That's a friend.
No kidding.
That is a friend. That's why you need to root for him in every situation. It's moves like that. And they're not identifying that in this transcript, at least not yet. I can't remember every bit of this, but it might be when we go over because there's another document that has all the friends and family that owe him money that he lent it to, and now he's trying to recoup it because he didn't think he'd ever be that broke. And you wouldn't either if you had $650 million.
No, you think you're set for life.
But last thing. So how privy do you think Sal Jenco is to all this getting out there that people know? Like when you're being accused of stealing money from him, that's a pretty big thing.
Well, your attorney's in a deposition, and it's going to come up, so it's going to be on a record somewhere.
But this transcript isn't mainstream. I just wonder to what extent Jenco thinks this is out there with the general public because you
Mhm.
cannot look good in any situation.
I'm sure he denies all of it. Even if it comes up, he
He's
denies
blaming
it.
Anthony. Anthony Fox is the ultimate
Yeah.
scapegoat in every situation.
Why not?
Like the Underhills, like in Fletch. Blame Anthony. But anyone listening to this, if you get into any trouble, just blame Anthony Fox.
Mhm.
He did it. Anthony Fox did it. Can't look him up. Can't find him. He's dead.
Well,
He's the
maybe
culprit.
not.
Okay, earlier you testified that Mr. Depp was generous to you, and that was in the context of, I believe Mr. Chu was asking you about the gifts that Mr. Depp bought for you on certain occasions. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you remember testifying that Mr. Depp was generous to you?
Yes.
Okay. Was Mr. Depp, I'm going to try to ask you this in a way that's not vague, based on what you know about him and based on, the interactions and conversations you've had with him in the time that you represented him, would you characterize Mr. Depp as generous to others, not only to you?
Extremely.
Wow. Now, see, this is how you know this is legit. She's complimenting him along the way, in addition to saying negative things. So it's not like it's one-sided. She's all over the place. She's not. She's saying, she's giving him these extreme compliments too.
Mhm.
Okay, can you just elaborate a little more?
I just always knew that he was always helping his family, his sister, his sisters, Debbie, Christy, his mother, his friends, and pretty much other people who you didn't mention who would show up and want money. And he always helped them. He was exceedingly generous.
Okay, thank you, Miss Jacobs. I have no further questions.
Okay, so
Thank
then,
you. Okay, we're not going to put a stipulation on the record. This is Mr. Kump now speaking. The court report is relieved of her obligation with respect to the transcript. If you can provide the original transcript to Brian Friedman's office, they can then provide it to Tracy Jacobs. She can only have 30 days from the date that she gets to review it, make any corrections, and then to provide them to her office. And she can sign it under the penalty of perjury, okay? Yep. Thank you, everyone. This
okay,
concludes today's deposition of Tracy Jacobs. Today's deposition has used 3 pieces of media. We're going off the record at 3:55 p.m.
okay, you need to
Proceedings
scroll down on the side. Sorry, 263
all the way to 263.
on the side. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I
263 at
see
the
it.
top. It says page 10. Okay.
Okay. May 13th, Monday, May 13th, 2019, 2:07 p.m., Los
In the
Angeles, California.
bottom third of the page.
Good afternoon. We're going on the record. The time is 2:07 p.m. Today's date is May 13th, 2019. This is Media One for the videotape deposition of Miss Tracy Jacobs, taken on behalf of counsel for the plaintiff in the action entitled Johnny C. Depp et al. Versus Bloom Hergot et al., filed in the Superior Court for the State of California for the County of Los Angeles. The case number is BC 680066. This deposition is being held at Reed Smith Law Firm. Oh, I didn't know that. This deposition is being held at Reed Smith Law Firm, located at 1901 Avenue of the Stars, Suite 700. Drop by. Anyone, if you're in LA, drop by Reed and Smith and just get in there and see what's going on and see who's what. Attach the faces to the name. See if they got it. Get in there. Anyone who's in the California area, go to 1901 Avenue of the Stars, Suite 700. Poke around for us, please. My name is Todd Rodriguez, and I'm the videographer with Veritex Court Reporting, and our court reporter is Yan Mungi from the Veritex Court Reporting. If I may please, introductions for the record, beginning with the counsel, Mr. Chu for the plaintiffs, Camille Vasquez for the plaintiffs, Brian Friedman for the deponent. What? Mr. Peterson, Ms. Sinclair, Ms. Renshaw, the videographer, Tracy Jacobs, having been the first duly sworn by the reporter to examine and testified. Okay, so I'm Chu again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 263. Is that what you're on?
That's where I'm at. Yep.
Good afternoon, Miss Jacobs. Thank you for you being here today. We'll try to make it as quick as possible. As your very able counsel has told you, if you want to take a break at any time, just let us know. It's not our business to know you want to take a break. Just let us know and we'll take a break. You recall having your deposition taken in a TMG case about a year ago on May 30th, 2019.
Yes.
Yes. Did you review the transcript in preparation for the deposition?
I looked at it briefly.
All right. Are there any other depositions either from that case or this case and you have reviewed in preparation for your deposition?
No.
I'm not entitled to know what you and Mr. Friedman or counsel for Reed Smith may have discussed, but did you meet with the counsel prior to this deposition?
Briefly once.
Again, without disclosing anything that you may have discussed, approximately how long did you meet with the counsel?
30 minutes.
Was that Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Was anybody else present during the meeting?
Yes.
Who else was present?
The two of those gentlemen indicating.
Did you look at the documents during the meeting?
No.
In the course of reviewing a deposition transcript from the TMG case, did you notice anything that was wrong, or was it consistent with your recollection?
It seemed to be.
Just to go through the timeline, we talked about briefly about off the record. When did you start working with Johnny Depp?
32 and a half years ago. I'm bad at backwards math. 1980, is it 7? Would
Yeah,
that be
87.
correct to say?
I think that's right. And at that time, when you started working with Mr. Depp, what, if any, movies had he appeared in?
He had appeared in Platoon in a small role, and I was at ICM then.
I love her not bringing up Private Resort, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we want to hear about. No Nightmare on Elm Street, no Private Resort.
Nope.
Had he already appeared on 21 Jump Street, correct?
He was, when I signed him, he was in his second year of 21 Jump Street.
Yep. That's Depp Mania starting season 2. That's when everyone took notice. Would it be fair to say that he was already a star at that point, or was he somewhat on the rise as a star?
He was on the rise. He was not a star.
Did you think you could help him get into that next step?
Yes.
Is this why you sought him out?
Yes.
When you all strike that, when he engaged you to be his talent agent, were you at ICM, correct?
Yes.
Did you have a written contract with them?
No.
It was all oral?
Yes.
It was 10%?
Yes.
10% of what?
Front end and the back end.
And there was a time when you left ICM and left UTA, is that correct?
Yes.
Was that in 1998 or 98 or something like that?
I had been there for 20, almost 21 years. So again, whatever the backwards math is.
And I
Do you know Michael?
just answer based on your recollection, Miss Jacobs.
Okay, that's my recollection.
Do you recall testifying that Mr. Depp had a breakout hit with Edward Scissorhands?
Yes.
Was that his first big movie hit?
Yes.
How did that come about?
I put him in a movie called Crybaby. Before that, for Image Films, and John Waters directed it. And I knew Tim Burton from his art school days, and it was sent to me, the script, for another client who didn't want to do it. And when I read it, I saw only Johnny, and I sent it to him, and he was angry that I sent it to him because he said he would never get the role. So I called both Tim Burton and Denise Denovi, his then producer, to get a meeting for him, which they were not at first interested in, but I was able to secure a meeting time. And then after the meeting, he wasn't offered it right away. There was a period of time where they were talking about a couple of people, but ultimately went to Johnny.
All right, so we should say here, and I've brought this up a few times, he tells the story a lot differently. Here, Jacob's history with Tim Burton at art school has not come up at all, and it's such a huge component in securing this. This just doesn't happen if that history is not there. Burton doesn't even want to meet with him, which he doesn't. Burton, if you watch interviews with Burton, he won't bring that up. So Burton's lying about how jovial he was to meet with Depp when they met like at a coffee shop, and apparently drank pots and pots and coffee and had all this stuff in common. So she has to crowbar him into a meeting. Depp just doesn't. He's almost embarrassed that he doesn't think he's worthy of this. She's talking about the other clients. Let's go over the list we've heard for Scissorhands. Tom Cruise, Michael Jackson, Tom Hanks, Gary Oldman. Is there anybody else that was mentioned as being offered this?
That's all I know of.
Those are the big ones. So they're some of the names. At least one of them is who she's talking about in this. It's a fascinating thing that just when you listen to Depp interviews, this does not come up. Most of this is not. Her role in this is much bigger than they ever let on. And Burton's got this massive head. He'd come off Batman at that point, right? It's a massive, massive international hit and changed the scope of the Batman character for years to come in so many different ways and really launched a lot of DC greenlighting all these things after that. It was a huge, huge turning point for DC Comics and that character. So Burton's got, he's like, I'm not meeting with, Tiger Beat Boy from Fox and Jump Street. It's just like, he doesn't want anything to do with it. I just work with Nicholson and Michael Keaton. So that they're not telling you.
Okay.
Is it fair to say that you basically pushed both sides to make this happen?
Yes.
And what, if any, impact did that have on his career going forward?
It made him a serious actor in a movie that was a hit.
Private Resort wasn't serious?
That butt shot was serious.
And at that time, were you acting as his talent agent and making this happen? Who, if anyone, was his entertainment lawyer?
I believe at the time it was Peter Nichols and Stan Coleman.
Okay. What, if any, did Mr. Coleman and Mr. Nichols have in getting Johnny that part?
Lawyers don't generally involve themselves in getting the part. They are involved, at least with me, in getting on the phones at the very beginning when the deal starts getting made. So they're involved from the moment the offer comes in and then to help me make the best deal I can.
And with respect to the deal on Edward Scissorhands, who negotiated the deal in points? And by deal points, I mean the upfront salary and the whole back end.
The lawyers and myself.
Do you remember? I know what's going back, but it's 1990 approximately.
It seems about right.
No, it is exactly right. Come on, you remember the year, Tracy. Stop with this. I don't know. I'm bad with years. It's 1990. It came out the winter of 1990.
But you are more obsessed with Johnny Depp than Tracy Jacobs ever was.
I don't believe that. She's responsible for $65 million. I think this is a huge seminal moment in her career. The other thing too with Scissorhands, it didn't make that much money.
Yeah.
It
Well,
wasn't
for him
a
at the time.
huge hit. I guess for him at the time, but it didn't make 9 figures. That's a hit. This did all right. What did it make? $50 million, which is good. It's not a massive, massive hit. They're talking about it was good enough to put him on that, but it wasn't. When you in scale, what massive blockbuster hits make, it did good. It was all right, but they're making it out to be bigger than it is. Do you remember going back to specifics of the negotiations, the front and the back end of Edward Scissorhands?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Well, do you remember who did what in terms of?
We all did.
Did the studio come forward with the proposal? Or was the proposal originated on the Depp side?
The studio or the financier always comes forward with the proposal first, and then we respond.
That's true in all cases?
As many as I can ever remember.
Who was Depp's manager, if anyone, at the time?
He didn't have one.
See, this is, again, this is a great Hollywood fourth wall look at the way this stuff happens. And she's laying out how these deals get made. I mean, this is stuff just doesn't get discussed. They're literally not allowed to discuss it, I feel like. But even just all the way the process of the money, this is just, I've never seen this before. And I read a lot of stuff in regards to Hollywood and interviews and stuff, and I'm always got my ears. I've never heard this laid out like this. Who was his first manager? Did he?
He didn't ever have one.
Wow. What about business manager? Did Mr. Depp have a?
He was with someone named Alan Tivoli. Tivoli?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
crazy Alan Tivoli.
Mm-hmm.
And this was about 1990.
I can't recall the exact dates.
Stop, Tracy. You know exactly
Okay.
when it is. I don't believe she doesn't know that date. I don't believe her. Did there come a time when Mr. Tivoli ceased to be Mr. Depp's business manager?
Yes.
And when was that?
I can't recall.
Was the next manager TMG or Joel Mandel?
Yes.
Was that approximately 1999 when he came on the scene?
That sounds about right.
What, if any, role did you play in the hiring of Joel Mandel?
Absolutely none. Christy Dombrowski set Johnny up with Joel. That totally was done through her, and I was told.
And Christy is Depp's sister, for anybody
Mm-hmm.
not completely familiar with all the names here. That's his. Christy Dombrowski is Johnny Depp's sister
Mm-hmm. And right hand
and right hand.
at the time.
Did the engagement of TMG and Mr. Mandel precede the engagement of Mr. Jake Bloom and Mr. Depp's entertainment lawyer?
Jake, I believe, was with him for 17 years. I don't recall how long Joel was.
For how long a period would Mr. Coleman and Mr. Nichols serving as Mr. Depp's entertainment lawyers?
Several years. I don't recall how much exactly.
Did there come a time when they ceased to be engaged?
Yes.
In what capacity? What happened, if you know?
Johnny didn't like Peter Nichols.
Who was Peter Nichols' successor?
Jake Bloom.
What, if anything, do you know about the process by Mr. Depp engaged Mr. Bloom and Bloom Herget?
I introduced him to Jake. I had him meet two different law firms. Jake was one of them.
Who was the other?
He met Jim Jackaway and Alan Wertheimer.
Jim Jackaway is a good name for a like a fake name on a Depp message board or something, or Twitter or something.
Oh, there you go.
I might
Discord.
have to use that. Jim Jackaway. Sounds like a fake name, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe you testified previously that you thought Jake was a better fit with Johnny.
Yes, that's correct.
And you were present at the strike that. You were present at the meeting with Chrissy Dombrowski and Johnny where Mr. Depp, Mr. Bloom were engaged.
Johnny was there. I don't recall if Christy was.
Was there any discussion of the financial arrangements?
No.
Are you aware that Bloom Herget, or strike that? What, if anything, are you aware of the concern in the financial arrangement between Bloom Herget, Johnny Depp, with respect to the serving as Johnny Depp's entertainment counsel?
I'm aware of the same thing that I experience with every entertainment lawyer, which is unless otherwise negotiated, it is understood that it's 5% front and back.
No, it's 5%. Entertainment lawyers take 5%. This is how this goes. So he's parting with decent money when you. He's a guy too that needs representation really bad. He's not good at it. He's such a, he's so erratic, in terms of bipolar personality, and he likes to go into hiding, and he likes to go on the lam, and he's not good at money stuff and negotiating and asking for things, as people aren't. He's got that huge Mata side to him. He really needs these people fighting the fight for him.
Yep.
If anybody does, it's him.
He needs an army.
No pun intended. Are you an attorney, Miss Jacobs?
No.
So you're not aware that there is never a written agreement between Bloom, Herget, and Mr. Depp?
No, I'm not.
What was your understanding, if any, of the scope of Bloom Herget's duties as Mr. Depp's entertainment lawyer? Objection! Calls for legal conclusion. You can answer.
I can?
Yes.
Johnny is a very unique individual, so his needs for a lawyer far exceed any other client I've had.
I told you!
So Jake needed to be involved, not just with the transactions in which he was involved, on every transaction from the beginning. As I'd like to say of conception, when he got a job offer, and Johnny's needs were more complicated because we all spent so much time on everything for him.
Yep. That's a high maintenance son of a bitch as far as that angle goes. How much time did Mr. Bloom spend for Mr. Depp?
I can't say, I just know a lot, and it wasn't just during working hours. On weekends, vacations, and anything else, because he always needed and wanted something.
Was Mr. Bloom responsible for Johnny's litigation?
Which litigation?
Any litigation?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Does anybody at Bloom Herget do litigation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Was Bloom Herget involved in any family law matters? Objection! Vague. It's ambiguous. You can answer, though.
Not that I'm aware of.
What, if any, role did Mr. Bloom and Mr. Bloom Herget play in Mr. Depp's divorce from Amber Heard?
I have no idea.
Now, at the time, Mr. Bloom was hired about 1999. Does that sound about right?
If it is 19 plus change years ago, that would be correct.
And at the time Mr. Bloom was engaged, Mr. Depp had already, by virtue of Edward Scissorhands, almost 10 years before, a major star, correct? Objection! It misstates the testimony. But you can answer.
Mr. Chu?
Well, I'll withdraw the question. Your counsel's objection is well taken. By Mr. As of the time, that's the first time you've ever said to me that. Mark that on the record, by the way. What was Mr. Depp, already established movie star at this time?
On his way to being one, yes.
Well, Edward Scissorhands was in 1990, correct?
Yes, but the first true gigantic stardom experience was with Jake Bloom, and that was Pirates.
Well, let's talk about Pirates. That was approximately what, June of 2003?
I believe it's a little before that, but I don't know.
That's about right. It's about the spring, summer of 2003.
Okay.
And she knows exactly when it is. It's her biggest payday. How do you not remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me?
It's probably all a blur, this entire experience.
Sure it is. How much before?
I don't know. The first Pirates, you can find out exactly. I don't want to be incorrect.
Yeah, I think it came out June of 2003.
But it was made before that, negotiated well before that.
Yeah, so she knows when it was. She knows that too. She
Well,
knows
she did
the
it.
year before. She understood. So how did that come about?
Jim Burkus and I took Johnny Depp over for a meeting with then Chairman Dick Cook to kind of have a go-see and to discuss potential projects between Johnny Depp and Disney. And within minutes, he said to Johnny, "What kind of movies would you like to do?" And Johnny answered, "I'd love to do a movie that my kiddies can see." And Dick Cook responded, "I have something I'm trying to make called Pirates of the Caribbean." And Johnny looked at him and said, "I'm in."
Was Mr. Bloom at that meeting?
No,
Mr. Bloom do anything to make the meeting happen?
no,
That was your initiative, wasn't it?
no, it was Jim Burkus.
Weren't you the one who suggested it?
Yes, but Jim actually set it up.
It's fair to say that Mr. Burkus and you setting up the meeting with Dick Cook is what led to Pirates 1, correct?
Well, that was just the beginning. As it turns out, it was a lot more complicated than that. It was an idea that came up in a room that Johnny responded very positively to. And in the actual act of making a deal, which became something very different than what Dick could have suggested, took months to negotiate. It wasn't that simple, unfortunately.
I think you said at your point in your last deposition that the meeting that you and Mr. Burkus set up, this is what led to it completely. Is that right?
The meeting definitely led to it, but it was very complicated, long transaction that was not just involving pirates.
What else was involved?
They wanted to make a two-picture deal with another movie, and he and I did not want him to do, and we ended up making the deal because it was the only way to get pirates. They reduced his salary, and he almost didn't do it. And I talked to him into doing it because I said, "What's the difference if you get $500,000 less than you think you should? If you believe that this movie is such a hit, it's not going to matter."
Good point, Tracy. That's so weird to hear Depp nitpicking over some couple of bucks.
Hmm.
That's what I mean. That's why she's a great agent. Stuff like this. She's essentially about to take credit for him taking the role. Is where
Yeah.
we're going with this,
Hmm.
which is like really so large and responsible for his wealth and more, in gargantuan ways. What was the other movie that was paired with pirates?
I can't remember the name of it, honestly. I would have to check. It was a movie that
Check.
Jerry Bruckheimer was going to produce as well that they tacked on to the Pirates deal.
Oh, I want to know what that is too. God damn it! I wish they'd come up with it. I feel like she
Astronaut's Wife
knows it. She's
2,
not saying. Yeah, right.
Nick of Time 2.
And you were the one who convinced Johnny to do this, right?
Yeah, because it was the only way to do pirates, but he backed out at the last minute because of the deal, because of the reduction that they had given him. He felt he was being ripped off by Disney.
Yeah, right. He hadn't established himself as a moneymaker yet. The only thing he had done that was a 9-figure movie was Sleepy Hollow in 1999. So what are they supposed to do?
Hmm.
They're supposed to throw 25 million at you, assuming that this is going to work. I mean, I wouldn't think, if I heard that pitch based on the Disney ride and that he was doing, I would think a total pirate movies had bombed miserably before that.
Hmm.
Waterworld and Captain Hook, it's like, can you believe? And obviously his talent and Keith Richards' Pepe Le Pew creation really galvanized it. But Jesus, I wouldn't think it would work with or without him. And then you talked him back into it, I assume.
Yeah.
What the F is Infinitum Nihil? I'm probably mispronouncing it like everybody else. See, even he's even his own lawyer is mispronouncing it.
Oh, I'm supposed to be the one that corrects him on this.
Wait. Where's
Infinitum Nihil.
that? No, I'm asking the question.
I know, and then I am clarifying it.
Okay.
Infinitum. I would say that's a good question. I couldn't tell you.
Shh. This effing company. I think I motion we change the company name.
Just call it My Production Company Inc. or
Yeah.
LLC. Please, let's move on.
Dan Marino Inc. Bob
All right.
Greasy Inc. Larry Zonka, Jim Kick Inc. But with that said, you played a role in getting it financed, correct?
For 10 years, yes.
I got an idea. Let's combine his two towns together for the the way they do it with Miramax. We'll call it
God.
Miraboro. Owen Max.
There you go. That works.
You'll take his two Miramar, Florida, and Owensboro, Kentucky. We'll call it
Sounds great to
Miraboro
me.
production.
Miraboro. I can say that barely.
So tell us, and again, I'm throwing out a date, and please correct me. When Infinitum Nihil created in about 2004.
Well, all I remember as far as this is concerned is that Johnny decided he wanted to have a production company where he could make movies that no one in town wanted to make. And I was able to talk to Graham King, who had independently financed people like Leonardo DiCaprio and others. I went with him and had drinks with him and then introduced him to Johnny. And then we made an offer for 3 years of overhead. And then Johnny told me his sister, who had zero experience in any kind of company, was going to be president.
She hates. She slips that in at the end. She hates his sister.
Mm-hmm.
They've been fighting for years. And how did you react to this one?
I didn't think it was a good idea.
What, if any, did Jake Bloom play in setting this one up?
We made the deal together. The moment they had agreed that Johnny wanted to do this and Graham agreed to finance it, then Jake and I structured a deal.
That's structured. I think
Oh,
it's
sorry.
wrong. Structured, not structured. You have the T-shirt.
I know. People need, if you've made it this far in this transcript, I know that you've been to the TeePublic website to buy a shirt.
What, if any, opinion did Mr. Bloom express as to the wisdom of having Johnny's sister serve as the president of Infinitum Nihil?
I don't recall.
Was that sarcastic by Benjamin Chew?
Oh, could be, yeah.
Did he just take a shot at his sister? He's supposed to have his
Well,
back.
maybe at this time, Johnny and the sister were not on good terms. So probably.
Yeah, true. Good point. Very good point. I should also say 2004, oddly, the year the Viper Room closes and Infinitum Nihil opens. Is it a coincidence?
No.
I think not. Did he share your opinion? Objection. It's vague. It's vague. Did you ever talk about it with them?
Probably.
But you probably don't recall any specifics.
Uh-huh.
What in order of the magnitude? How much did Mr. King put up for overhead during these 3 or 4 years?
I believe it was 3 years. I think roughly $2.5 million guaranteed a year for overhead. That includes salaries, offices, and everything else.
You you cut out a little bit. There's a 2.5 million. It's that part was somehow.
Okay, I think
I don't know
roughly
why.
$2.5 million guaranteed a year for overhead. And that includes salaries, offices, and everything else.
And what did Mr. King get out of this?
Rum Diary, which lost $50 million.
Wow, I didn't see that. I don't know if I read this part. Did you hear that, folks? Where this enter the succubus, where this all happened, where his life went down the tubes in a pussy fog.
That should have been the first sign.
He lost. So in also destroying his life, he lost $50 million on this movie to
Hmm.
make the movie that ruined his life, where he cast the succubus. That movie must, just thinking about all of it, it is really the ruination of his life, the Rum Diary. All he had to do was not sleep in Hunter S. Thompson's basement and find that transcript, never make that movie, and this never happens. The Rum Diary and Hunter S. Thompson ruined his life. And I don't even think that's hyperbole. Do you?
No.
His obsession with it. What happened after those 3 years, Mr. King?
He let the deal lapse.
Do you find an additional or new funder?
Yes.
Who was the new funder?
Warner Brothers.
Who made that happen?
Jake and I.
You found Graham King, correct?
Yes.
So who found Warner Brothers?
Jake and I together.
How did that happen?
Jake and I discussed Graham's relationship was, I believe, non-exclusive to Warner's, and it made sense to go to Warner's since Johnny was going to do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, that was 2 years after Pirates 1. That's the next huge, and it was a huge hit too, the Burt
Yeah,
movie.
which ended up being a huge success. So we went to Warner's and asked for an overhead deal, and they agreed to it. So we had 3 years at Warner's.
Do you recall specifically what Mr. Bloom did to make that happen?
Yeah, he was on the calls. I was with whomever we dealt with at the time. I don't recall exactly who that was. That was some time ago when we made a deal together every step of the way.
What about Pirates? I understand you've testified very clearly about you and Mr. Burkus having a meeting with Mr. Cook, but what specifically did Mr. Bloom do?
In terms of what?
In terms of getting the deal done.
He helped me at Warner Brothers. It involved Alan Horn, who now works at Disney, and he had a great relationship with him. He went to Alan, and I was speaking to, I believe, again, I could be wrong, Steve Spira, who runs business affairs for many, many, many years, and together we were able to get a pretty terrific deal for 3 more years.
Wow. She's really, laying out her negotiation skills are great.
Hmm.
She as she laid out before, he needs extra special negotiation time, and she's got the Midas touch back then
Hmm.
going off. That's how it works though. You have that one huge hit, and now he has two, so now he could use Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And again, he applied the same Jack Sparrow ingredients. I think Willy Wonka is Michael Jackson and
Exactly.
something else.
Michael Jackson mixed with Edward Scissorhands,
Something
in my
else.
opinion.
Yeah. Asexual, and I think he claims it was based on a lot of those old children's television hosts that would be on Saturday and Sunday morning.
Who all
The
turned
Captain
out to
Kangaroo
be,
sex pedophiles.
yeah.
Yeah. And somehow Michael Jackson's also. How did that happen?
Yep.
How would he get lumped in with that,
Hmm.
that ilk?
Like Jimmy
Are you
Savile
speaking of?
from England.
Yeah.
Big one.
Are you
Anyway, go ahead.
speaking
Sorry.
of? No, it's okay. Are you speaking of Pirates now?
No, I'm speaking of well before Pirates.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I know
Because then the deal moved to Disney.
doesn't look good. Gotcha. When was the first time, if at all, you became aware that Mr. Depp had financial problems?
Years ago.
Do you have a ballpark for when that might be?
That's you.
2005? Does that sound about right? If you had to
Sound,
ballpark it?
sounds like something I might have said in my last deposition.
Yeah, I think you said mid-2000s.
And yeah.
How did you become aware of that?
Because I was being pushed by Johnny day in, day out to just get him money on movies that he had no business doing because he wanted the $20 million payday. And that was the beginning of the end. Even though it was a long time ago, it certainly set a pattern for his choices.
I tell you, as a lifetime Depp head, as being someone who's read every interview I could get my hands on, magazine, print, television, or otherwise, I am so blown away at the 180 that philosophy, his artistic bend and his artistic persona has taken, that I'm reading that paragraph. It is mortifying. I'm almost frozen. I'm almost sitting here agape at the notion that the artistic lack thereof turn that's taken. I can't believe how contrary that is to everything he stood for or supposedly for me, or how'd he have you believe for years and years and years. I can't believe I just read that. You just read that. Isn't that? I mean, you know him very well as well. Does not have you completely awestruck that we're at this point that what you just read?
5 years ago, I was shocked if would have read this. Now, knowing everything I know now, it goes along with what we know. But yeah,
Just
coming
to
off
see
of
it
these
laid out
movies
by
she's
his agent.
talking about,
Yeah.
I never would have thought he had money problems.
But just to burn to the ground all of your artistic integrity with that in that one paragraph, because it really does. It just destroys, you know. And again, he made his bed, but God damn it! I mean, you just wipe out any philosophy you've ever had in terms of artistic integrity. When Strike that did there come a time when you became aware that he had tax issues?
I had heard generally about it, but no specifics.
And who apprised you generally about Johnny's tax problems?
I can't recall.
Was it Mr. Bloom?
I can't recall.
Was Mr. Bloom, if you know, aware of Mr. Depp's tax problems?
I don't know.
Do you know what involvement Mr. Bloom had in respects to Mr. Depp's taxes?
I don't know.
And I want you to go to a more general question about when did you become Johnny's talent agent? I think at the last deposition you said you spoke to every producer, every filmmaker. If you could just explain what you do.
My job was to find, as it is for every client, is to find material that a client, whether it's Johnny Depp or anyone else, might want to do, and then be as aggressive as possible in securing that employment. I spoke to producers, studios, filmmakers, anyone that could help.
Is it fair to say that you were proactive on Johnny's behalf?
I am on everyone's behalf.
Did you also clearly testify with respect to Edward Scissorhands? Were you on the lookout for scripts you thought might be good for him?
Always.
What role, if any, did Mr. Bloom play in looking for scripts?
That's not a lawyer's job.
A lawyer's job is to negotiate and paper the deal?
You oversimplify it. A lawyer's job, particularly in Johnny's case, is to help structure and strategize how to make the best deal we can. And in Johnny's case, that became increasingly complicated.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
hmm
In terms of structuring a deal, that includes taxes, right? Objection! It calls for some kind of legal conclusion. Well, you said you were involved in strategizing about structuring of a deal. That implies tax, does it not?
I don't know. I can only say that on occasion, I remember the phrase indemnification being used. I can't recall which ones, but I had nothing to do with that.
My objection was well taken in hindsight. So, do you have no idea whether tax implications are ever considered in a deal?
I only know from Christy, who told me that he could only be trying to recall where he was living at the time, that there were tax implications for how much time he spent in different countries. I have no idea how it applied to contracts.
That's a good question. If he's globe-trotting,
Mm-hmm.
Meadowlark Lemon aside, how do you apply that to he's living in France and England and stuff? You just go to where the less taxes are taken out?
Oh, probably.
LA, London,
Yeah, probably.
France. It's so bizarre. I wonder how that works with him, especially him.
Why do you think Howard Stern lives in Florida?
I know. I won't say where he's broadcasting from. Remember Travolta started that with the airport?
Yeah.
He had his own. He was flying in and out of Florida, and then it became this kind of. Did Burt Reynolds start that initially with Florida?
Yeah, I think so.
Remember, like you kept hearing that Burt Reynolds lived in was it Jupiter, Florida, or
Jupiter,
something?
yeah.
It was like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood. Nobody from Hollywood can live in Florida, and you didn't realize what it was all about with the tax, whatever that is, sheltering or.
That's exactly what it is.
And you think Depp, who's from Miramar, would do that move.
Mm-hmm.
He would just be going home. Do you know whether or not Mr. Bloom or his firm dealt with the tax implications? Objection, it's vague.
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be part of the financial strategy? Objection, it calls for legal conclusion. You can answer.
I would assume yes, along with the business manager.
What role did the business manager Joel Mandel play with respect to the taxes?
I don't know.
Did you have any awareness of whether Mr. Depp's taxes were being paid on time?
I don't know.
Did you ever become aware that Mr. Depp's taxes were paid late for 16 years in a row?
I only knew he needed cash. I don't know anything about the specifics.
Wouldn't that be something that his lawyer should know? Objection, calls for legal conclusion.
I have no idea.
Calls for speculation. All right, who is Don Starr?
I have no idea. I've never heard that name.
Were you aware of something that's called the Tryon loan?
I've heard of it.
What is your understanding of it?
I don't know the specifics.
What do you know generally?
If I understand it correctly, it had.
I'm just going to caution you, okay? If everything you know is from counsel, don't say. If you know outside of the discussions with counsel, you can answer.
I don't know.
Ms. Jacobs, showing that what's been marked Exhibit 241 for identification. Have you ever seen this document before?
Well, according to this, I was emailed it, but no, I can't recall.
Who's Danny Watts?
He's Jake's assistant.
Does this refresh your recollection of the Tryon loan?
No.
Do you have any idea how the Tryon loan came about?
No.
Did you ever speak with Jake Bloom about this?
Only in the vagaries of knowing he needed cash, but never insofar as Tryon, who I've never heard of.
When you say he needed cash, you mean
Johnny.
Johnny?
Yes.
Yes. Did Johnny get cash out of this deal?
I have no idea.
Did you ever at any time have a discussion with Mr. Depp in which he said in words or substance that the back end, his residuals were for his children?
He talked about how he made movies for his children so he could leave them something. We never talked about it in that way.
Do you know who? Strike that. But by the way,
Oh, that's me.
where's
By the way,
okay.
where's the attachment for this that explains it?
I'm going to show you that.
Oh, okay.
This has already been marked Exhibit 172, so we don't need to mark it again. So now this is a document that doesn't show it was copied to you.
Correct.
But I want to show it to you. I want you to look, please, at the second page.
Uh-huh.
Executive Summary, Tryon Scaramanga. Specifically, if you would, please direct your attention to paragraph 3.0.
Uh-huh.
When it says to the advisors,
Yes.
you see where it lists loan proceeds to the management group.
Yes.
And those were Johnny's managers, correct?
He has no manager.
Business manager?
I guess.
And Bloom Herget, that's Bloom's firm, correct?
Yes.
And when it shows the payout to him with 5%. Do you know what the 5% represents?
No.
Objection! This assumes facts, not in evidence. But you can answer.
Can't?
You can answer.
No.
Then, do you see the entry, United Talent Agency?
Where is that?
It's the right of the middle paragraph 3.0 to the advisors. You have the management group.
Yes, I see that.
That's you, right?
Yes, I guess.
And 10% is the amount of commission that you took.
Yes, but I never saw these documents before.
Did you have any understanding that UTA was getting 10% of the proceeds?
Not from this.
Well, from any source? Objection. It's vague. You can answer.
I understood that as one. I understood. However, some of the back ends were pledged that we would be receiving commission owed on them for the money I guess he took.
Do you know that he got any money out of this?
I assume. I don't know.
You don't know?
I.
You know that UTA got its money.
Yes.
Jake got its money.
You're asking me something I really don't know about. I can only speak for myself.
You believe that Jake didn't take his 5%?
I have no.
Objection! It calls for speculation.
I have no idea.
You never talked to Jake Bloom about this.
Blah, 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 blah. Inaudible response.
Yes. If you look to the next page, it purports to show certain payments being made to the advisors on or about January 15th, 2015.
Am I in the wrong place?
No. You're in the right place.
On this page where it says vintage,
Yeah.
what am I looking at?
You're looking at the entries for the 21st of January.
I see it.
And you see that the management group received a payment on 21/15.
That's you.
Do you place? I'm sorry. Let me go back it up.
Okay.
It's written strange. It doesn't look good.
I know.
And you see the management group received a payment on 21/15. Do you have any reason to believe that this didn't take place? Same question for Bloom Herget.
No.
Do you have any reason to believe it didn't happen? Objection. It's asked and answered. No, it wasn't answered. So you can answer.
I have no idea.
And you see the entry for January 15th, January 21st of 2015, $108,000.
Yeah.
Plus payment to UTA. Objection. Do you have any reason to believe that this didn't happen? Objection. It misstates the document and it calls for speculation. You may answer.
I can't recall. I don't disbelieve it, but I don't know.
Do you see anything that shows any money whatsoever going to anyone other than?
Is there another page I should be looking at?
I'm asking you about that page.
Okay, what's the question?
The question is, do you see any payments going to Johnny Depp?
Not according to this document.
Do you have any other reason independent of that document to think that Mr. Depp got anything out of this loan?
I don't know.
You said that certain Mr. Depp's pictures were pledged, the back end of which pictures were they? Objection. This misstates the testimony. You may answer.
I believe it was mostly, and I don't know exactly, that it was several of the Pirates movies, Alice in Wonderland and Into the Woods.
And what's the basis of your understanding?
I can't recall who told me. It could have been Jake.
What did Jake tell you about it? Objection. It misstates the testimony.
I don't recall the conversation. What I remember is that I have an oblique understanding about several movies. There may be others that I'm just not aware of that were going to be paid in a different way than just receiving the checks from him, Johnny, the client.
Now, if you look at this, those movies they just rattle off here, Into the Woods, Alice in Wonderland, Pirates, they're all like fairy tale, Disney boy kind of this stretch he's on, where he's in league with these, very kid-like movies he claims to be doing for his kids and stuff. And it's huge paydays. Into the Woods, I mean, he plays the big bad wolf and he's literally in the movie for maybe 10 minutes. And I think it's on the financials we have. He makes a killing on that. I bet you he didn't do more than a week of work on that movie, if that.
Probably not.
And it's all, like Alice in Wonderland, Into the Woods, but it's all Disney fairy tales. There's sort of streakies on here. And it's a
for the
lot of
kiddos
money.
to see.
It's for the kids. It's for the kids. I just felt like I should do a movie for my kiddies. Did you talk to Johnny the client about this?
No,
Why not?
no reason to.
Wasn't your job to do that, right?
Well, it's a money matter. I would have assumed it would be his business manager.
Did Mr. Bloom have any obligation to counsel his client about this? Oh, objection. It calls for legal conclusion. It's vague and ambiguous.
I have no idea.
Do you know who set this deal up?
No.
We don't have to mark this either, since it's been mercifully marked as Exhibit 212 at prior deposition.
Is that for him?
It's for both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have another copy? Of course. Whereupon plaintiff's Exhibit 212 was previously marked for identification by the court reporter. It purports to be the execution version of the Tryon Management Services Limited Agreement. My question to you is this: have you ever seen this document before?
No.
Showing you, Miss Jacobs, what has been marked for identification, Exhibit 242. It purports to be an email from you to Miss Dombrowski dated January 30th, 2013. Have you ever seen this before?
I seem to have responded to it. I can't recall it now, but yeah, it sounds familiar.
What was this about?
Well, if you notice, it wasn't me who wrote it. It was Lisa Jacobson, who at the time ran our endorsement department, ran the endorsement, and this was an offer she was trying to secure from Louis Vuitton for his commercial services.
What was Miss Jacobson who initiated this potential deal?
This particular deal, yes, but I had been asking her to please find something.
What role, if any, did Mr. Bloom play in obtaining this opportunity?
It was a UTA situation. Again, it's about procuring employment. Lisa Jacobson's sole job was to do this. And as it turned out, it didn't amount to anything, so there was nothing to do.
Did you know why this didn't come to fruition?
Because Louis Vuitton didn't want to pay us.
Well, I wonder what they asked for. Yeah, I know of no. When I saw Louis Vuitton, I was like, I know Louis C.K. and him have had, but that's who I'd want to do endorsement stuff for. Vuitton, yeah, I never knew. So I'd love to know what the figure was that they had to turn down.
Wow.
Because at that point, he's such a massive moneymaker that I'm sure they threw. And again, I'm not proud that he's even looking to do that. Again, Mr. Artiste that I knew wouldn't go near an endorsement like that.
Exactly.
I don't know why
Can you
he even
imagine
needs to do it at that point?
Johnny Depp in season 3 of 21 Jump Street doing a Louis Vuitton bag commercial?
Or 1994 after Gilbert Grape and Ed Wood. Right?
Yeah.
It's anti his complete artistic integrity mentality.
Or Sauvage.
It's even worse. I can't.
Driving down the road in a muscle car with a buffalo.
Do we have any Super Bowl commercials on tap this Sunday
it.
we're going to be looking at?
What do you think?
I'm guessing yes, if not more than one.
He's the halftime show.
Or I have to hide, to run out of the room in shame when it hits the screen. Like I made the commercial, like I greenlit. I get blamed for these commercials, by the way. Don't you?
No.
People look at me like I greenlit this, like I made this decision. I made him do it.
It's all right.
This will be marked 243, whereupon the plaintiff's Exhibit 243, the top email on this page purports to be from you to the group of people, including Mr. Bloom, dated February 11, 2014. And what is this exchange about?
About a movie that was at Lionsgate called The Secret Life of Houdini. Yes.
Oh yeah, this was a big. This was in the news. His rumors for years,
Hmm.
and it's one of those. It's like the show we want to do. Like Depp almost did it,
Hmm.
or offers he didn't take, or didn't come to fruition, didn't get made. This is one of those movies you was meandering. I was hearing about it for years, and it just never. And I always wondered what happened to it. And this is what I found out in this.
Hmm.
What happened to it, because it wasn't explained anywhere else but here. Who originated this opportunity?
I did.
How did that come about?
I called incessantly and said to the heads of Lionsgate how much I wanted this movie for Johnny.
And how did they respond?
I have an offer here, so it must have been okay.
And what was the offer?
I think it states it here in writing.
Well, humor us. Tell us what the offer was. Was it upfront payment? What was the back end?
It literally says fee, quote, fee, $20 million versus contingent compensation, unquote.
Jesus Christ.
Then it
That's
goes
a
on to
lot of movie.
define the contingent compensation, which asking me, I don't recall exactly, but this is what their initial offer was. This was not negotiated out.
That's a lot of money for that particular concept and genre. You know what I mean? Like a Houdini. Like what is? That's no guarantee that's going to be a moneymaker. That sounds like, modestly, that it wouldn't even make what his salary was back.
Hmm.
Can you see that being a big hit? I don't.
No,
So that was my question.
you have the answer.
Why did this deal not come to fruition?
Because Johnny hemmed and hawed about doing it because they could never get the script right, and ultimately Lionsgate never made the movie.
She takes these little passive aggressive shots at him just by saying like hemmed and hawed,
Hmm.
like saying it's his fault, and you're like, we're supposed to believe that he's the good guy, and now she's turned on him, so the agent now can throw him under the bus and say, no, it's his
Hmm.
fault. I'm not taking the rap for this. She was
Exactly.
his human shield for years. When stuff didn't get made, she'd take the blame for it. Now that those
Hmm.
days are over, and she's saying, blaming him for a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
Did you push him to make the deal? Objection. It's vague and it's ambiguous.
Yes, because it was a development deal. It was for a lot of money, and I just felt we could use that as an opportunity with other people. Was I ever crazy about it? No, but I thought it was a good thing to have on our plate.
Wow. So when you say strike that, did Mr. Bloom express the same opinion that it was something Johnny should do?
No, that would be expressing an opinion about material, which none of the lawyers I work with do. What he did express was an involvement with dealing with this woman, Patricia Locella, who was the head
Yeah,
of business affairs.
Lachella,
Okay, who was the head of business
whatever.
affairs for Lionsgate, and he was involved in helping me negotiate it from the moment I received this offer.
Well, you say here in the top email, Michael and Jake will be dealing with the deal now. Is Michael Schenkman?
Yes.
If you recall, what did Mr. Schenkman and Mr. Bloom do since you were handing it over to them?
Well, I wasn't handing it over. I had been okay with the $20 million, but I wanted them to further define the contingent compensation. This was their original offer, which was not enough. And then anything else past that, I felt very comfortable with them negotiating, as I always did.
Did you know that, if anything, that they did after that?
I don't remember exactly, but they were in the process of dealing with Patricia.
Are you marking that? Yes, it's 244. Miss Jacobs, this purports to be an email from you to a number of people. I don't know who
I don't know
AK
who.
is.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I
It's okay.
screwed up.
I don't know who AK is. I really don't remember.
Have you ever heard of Cross Creek Pictures?
Yep. Yes. They were involved in the financing of this movie before it was set up at Warner Brothers. And actually, oh, Adam Kassan, I don't remember him.
So it does come back to her.
Hmm.
You knew that had to be Kassan, right, when you saw that? Cross Creek Pictures. I don't know if I've seen that one at the end of a. So here we go. We're getting the black machine. So it appears in this email at the bottom of the page that Mr. Kassan is stating that Johnny Depp is committed to acting in the film Black Mass. He says Black Mass. He writes it wrong. I
Uh,
wonder if that was how it was said. Playing the role of Whitey Bulger. Did And then you disagreeing with that?
No, what this is all about is they want to make a press release in Berlin, and this is what they suggested doing. You don't see my response to this because I think my response is before they announce a film, because I'm very cautious at any film festival that I wanted to speak to Jake and Michael about this. I didn't want to give my permission to just making some press release.
So you very rarely see Tracy Jacobs anywhere in all the stuff in interviews you see, but it seems like she does go to these film festivals, and
Hmm.
we have some footage of her lurking in the background sometimes in these film festival red carpets where she's vetting. I think she's very nervous the film won't be screened correctly, so she's out there on the front lines making sure that the right people are looking at it. So
Hmm.
a bad um, film festival can destroy a movie. Obviously, if he's had that happen to him a few times. The movie he directed, The Brave, got destroyed by some reviewers, and it never really got released here. So I
Hmm.
think she's traumatized by that, is what she's kind of implying.
Okay.
Um, I gotcha.
Not with a star of Johnny Depp's stature.
Showing you what's been marked identification exhibit 245.
Yes.
Who's Patrick Knapp?
I don't remember. I'm looking at this and I cannot remember.
Is that Schwarzenegger?
What?
Is Patrick Knapp a partner of Mr. Bloom?
I don't know. I literally have no recollection about who that is.
Why did he say Schwarzenegger?
I don't know. I don't get it.
What the F was that non sequitur? It makes no sense. I'm looking at this and trying to understand how he threw that name out. It makes no sense.
Mm, maybe he's making a joke. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't what that is. What is the? Oh, I love this. This is good. This is Hollywood fourth wall. And Miss Jacobs, what's a perk list?
A perk list is something that I let the lawyers negotiate. And for Johnny Depp, it was as significant as a salary and back end. It included private planes, accommodations, per diem, how many hundreds of people that the studio would pay for him to employ. I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But it involved every aspect of cost, which is included in the entire cost of the production as to adding. And he usually, as far as I'm concerned, got the best of the best in terms of that.
Did the perk list change materially from film to film?
Yes, depending on the budget.
Well, the common elements of the perk list. Give me some.
Yes.
Did each perk list have to be drafted from scratch, or was prior perk list used as templates?
I think they had a boilerplate perk list, which the studio would have to see to know what we were telling the truth about, what he's actually received in the past, but every one of them changed. A movie that was lower budget, he couldn't get as much as he could get on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Pirates.
Jesus Christ! But could you imagine at that point? Boy, that sounds just massive. And when they reduce from, and I'm sure these studios do this all the time, they go from a star of his magnitude, and then they decide, let's go with a lesser name and see what happens. And then it worked, and the
Hmm.
movie's like a huge hit, and they don't have to go. And they start cutting all that stuff out. I mean, look at what he goes from all that, and then he has to like slum it, like cut to today. That's a big um drastic change in lifestyle. Like, you don't see stars having to do that. It's all those A-list stars never have to come down from that, and
Hmm.
he now has to. Like all of that stuff. Like, I mean, she said it's as big as his actual salary in that. That's crazy.
Oh, it's top of the world.
And so this Patrick Knapp is writing Tracy here. Please see the attached perk list modified in accordance with CC earlier.
Uh-huh.
So what role, if any, did you play in preparing this perk list?
None.
Do you have any idea why he's sending this to you?
No, because I was his agent.
Rango is an animated film, correct?
Yes.
Here comes. So directing your attention to the next page, which is the first page of the perk list, it said personal hairdresser.
Uh-huh.
There would not be a need for a personal hairdresser on an animated film, would there?
I can't see why, but they ask, so I guess more power to them.
What on earth does that constitute? Where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Howard and Tony Coburn are jealous of that
Mm-hmm.
request. God damn. You see where Rango was filmed?
I believe in Los Angeles. That sounds right. I'm not 100% sure.
So directing your attention to paragraph 3A on the second page is a reference to business class round trip air travel from the UK. So that wouldn't have necessarily been for this film.
Yes, it would have, because he has two assistants who are British, who constantly needed updated work visas, and who specifically were employed by Johnny, and that's Stephen Deuters and Nathan
Holmes,
Holmes. Thank you.
you're right. Directing your attention to page 4, doubling nudity. There shall be no nudity and or sex scenes featuring JD and Double.
I swear to you, I don't know where you are.
I'm on page 43430.
Okay, sorry, let me find that.
It's paragraph,
Oh, doubling nudity. Okay.
and that wouldn't be applicable to an animated film, would it?
Doesn't seem so.
And same question with respect to hair, makeup, and wardrobe. That wouldn't have any application.
Actually, it might have, and here's why. They do what's called EPKs, which is electronic press kit for every movie to promote the film, which is live action where the actors are on screen. And yes, he would have needed all of that.
Jeez. Um, the no, have you a male actor with a no nudity clause? And his movies are just like oddly asexual
Mm-hmm.
in a Morrissey kind of way, where there's not a lot of you know sexual cliches in his movies. He just he's covering all the bases. It's so bizarre that he would even need to institute that in any way.
Well,
Oh my
I don't think
god.
it depends on the movie. He just throws that in every movie.
Yeah, I think he just has like a blanket
Mm-hmm.
demands like that. And there's female A-list actresses who just refuse to do nudity on all levels, thinking that they're beneath. And even someone like Sarah Jessica Parker, who she's in a show called Sex in the City, and isn't doing a nude scene. It's just the most ridiculous contradiction of that title. Somehow she got away with that all those years.
Yeah. Just set up everybody else to do it.
Yeah, everybody else has to except her
Mm-hmm.
and Matthew Broderick.
Thank God.
Miss Jacobs, from the undergraduate institution, did you what undergraduate institution did you graduate?
Austin University.
Do you have any graduate degrees?
No.
What was your major?
Medieval history and art history.
And what did you do prior to joining ICM professionally?
I worked at a company called Triad, which no longer exists.
And what did you do for Triad?
I was an agent.
For how many years did you work for Triad?
3 or 4.
Was that your first job out of college?
No.
What was your first job before that?
First job out of college, I was a writer at Leo Burnett in Chicago. It's an ad agency.
I'm familiar with it.
The first agency was an agency that no longer exists, named Jack Rose Dorothy Diotis. It no longer exists.
You mean JRDD?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned her before, but for the record, who is Christy Dombrowski?
Johnny's sister.
And I believe you testified earlier that she had no experience when she became president of Infinitum Nihil.
Nihil.
Are we sure about this? Effing pronunciation of this dumb company? When did you first meet her?
I can't recall. Probably a couple years. She was his assistant when I first came in. I don't even think she was working for Sony in some capacity. And then within a couple of years, she became his assistant.
What was Christy's role when you started interacting with her?
To be his assistant, taking care of travel and things that he needed, like most assistants.
Did her role ever as an assistant ever change over time?
Yes.
How did it change?
She became more managerial.
And approximately when did this happen?
A couple years of her being an assistant.
When you say she became more managerial, what specifically do you?
She wanted to control every aspect of everything.
How did that strike that? What what's the basis for you saying that?
Because it's the truth. Because she literally would be the conduit for me to get a hold of him and would make decisions for him.
Let me ask you a question that's somewhat um it's not a big deal, but what is with this strike that? Is that like legalese?
Yeah, when they want it stricken from the record because they misspoke when they were
Have you
asking the
heard
question. Yeah,
you've
it's
heard
in
this
every
like said?
case.
I've
Yeah,
never other than us reading this I've never heard that said before. I just keep wondering if the hell that is. Strike that?
it's in every deposition.
Okay. I've no, I've seen it here, reading it, and I say it, and I'm just curious. I've never seen it written out. I've
Like
never heard it said.
when you go to ask a question and your words get flipped around or you misspoke,
Yeah.
whatever, then you'll ask the reporter to strike that from the record.
Okay. I'm gonna start using that in real life. See what
I'm a
happens.
lawyer.
You sound like one.
Yeah, okay.
You have some hard hitting. You are a hard hitting broad.
Uh-huh.
Very intimidating.
I'm thinking about dinner right now, so
It sounds like it.
a couple more pages.
Was she a client?
No.
How did you? Let me make a belated objection. Calls for a legal conclusion as to technically who UTA's client was. Fair enough. When she, if you could read back her answer, I'm sorry. Uh,
Because
would
it's
you
the
rely
truth.
on a? Wait, where are you here? Okay, I'm sorry. It looks it's weird the way it's.
You know.
Go ahead.
The record was read as follows. Because it's the truth, because she literally would be the conduit for me to get a hold of him and would make decisions for him.
Would you rely on a statement of the decision, or did you try to get to your client, Mr. Depp?
Both. Unfortunately, a lot of the time I had to rely on her because I couldn't get him to call me back. That was a continuous pattern throughout his career.
Did you ever discuss this with Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
What discussions did you have about your inability to get in touch with him?
I expressed my frustration.
Did Mr. Bloom express a similar frustration?
No, he didn't have that issue with Christy.
So it seems like with Depp, like the more successful he is, the more gleefully aloof he becomes with his agent. Like I've said this 100 times on here. And you're like a brand new actor to the biz, and you just get into the Screen Actors Guild, and you miraculously get an agent. You are calling her back, and you picking it up on a half a ring. You do not pull this stuff unless you're some crazy A-lister with absolutely no um, accountability at that point. You know, you're just rarefied, untouchable A-list star. And I think probably after Pirates, he's like, I don't have to call her back. She needs me. She needs me way more than I need her. And that
Hmm.
shift happens there, you know? Uh, why do you say that?
Because she spoke to him a couple of times a day about, from what I know, all sorts of matters. And my understanding was she was very different with him than she was with me.
I take it Mr. Bloom told you that he spoke with Christie?
No, she told me.
All right, let's stop right there. 311
Hmm.
on the overall transcript is where we pick it up next time. We'll end this, read some comments, and then close up shop. So we're gonna have some comments and questions from our various sources. You could submit them to. This is from mostly YouTube. DC writes from the last thing we did. I think it's from 16. She writes, as soon as Arm pointed it out, all I could hear was Brad Pitt narrating this video. This was a brilliant episode. Thank you, DC. Yeah, incredibly average if you get a chance. Has these subtle intonations and speech cadence and voice of Brad Pitt. It really does. I mean, I was listening again, and it is unmistakable. I mean, it's just when Brad Pitt tries to sound intellectual and he narrates something, it's got the subtle Brad Pitt voice, a little hint of Missouri accent in it. So when you
Mhm.
go over the incredibly average Depp site, he just get your ear open and take a listen to how much he sounds like Brad Pitt. I think it's unmistakable. Once you
Yeah, that
know
was
it
a
in
good
advance, too.
observation from you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, DC. So this is the last one. These are just coming in now. This is from Hooper, our buddy Hooper45. Very radio gunk friendly gentleman. Great job, guys. As always, fascinating. Really need to do a live chat. Would love to throw in my 2 cents and plus some questions. Always a pleasure, kids. Thanks, Hoops. You wrote back. Very soon, Hoops. It's just a matter of scheduling. We'll let everybody know well in advance. Thanks so much. That sounds like Tracy Jacobs actually answered that. It really does. Yeah, Hooper. I do look forward to it. I want some major interaction. I would love to get a lot of people in there and just riff off the chat with various Depp musings. That will be a lot of fun. Hopefully,
Mhm.
there is people ready for. I'm going to do it at a time when everyone's available too.
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
1 in the afternoon on a Wednesday is the greatest time.
Maybe a Saturday. I don't
Tuesday
know.
or evening somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
some dead Saturday after the NFL season is like a
Mhm.
perfect time to do that. Absolutely.
Or since
Everyone's
you
bored.
are involved in Radio Gunk right now while he's doing shows, the first few days of the week, maybe like a Thursday evening.
Yeah, that's good too.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
Here's our buddy Kylo Sierra Alpha, KSA, as it were. Succubus completely destroyed that man, has dented his resolve. No matter the outcome, he will never be the same. I hope he manages to remain active, at least in the indie scene. Anyway, peace and love, Sarah and John. Love you guys. Thank you.
It's very nice.
Very nice, Kylo Sierra. Love you back. Yes, why I said this, I was thinking about this just yesterday. She cannot go. She will always be looked upon. He will never not enter people's mind when people look at her. There's nothing she can do for the rest of her life where this won't be attached to her. Does she like to be synonymous with it? Yeah, there's a part of her that definitely loves that these two are just forever attached in the most salacious and negative of ways. But nevertheless, she loves that she hooked in so bad that you can't. With him, you can look at him without thinking about her. But there is a unfortunately large percentage of people who don't look at him and
Mhm.
not think of her. Even we talked to him on Gunk, the casual, passive fans of his. She's constantly bringing, and that's my biggest nightmare is that she gets brought up vicariously through him. And when people just bring his name up, it's a large percentage of casual fans reflex thing is to bring her up, and it bothers the shit out of me that she got her hooks into him to that degree.
Yep, exactly. And she's got a kid now.
And what she was going for, and the roles that came with it,
Mhm.
based on it being attached to him. So we have our A. Smith, who wrote us last time. Very great compliment here. I come home from a long day at work and I get refreshed. I hit refresh and I sit down to play Valhalla. And seeing this episode put a big arse smile on my face. Now I can kill happily. You saved my Friday. Thank you. Thank you, you two. There's anything better compliment than that you're looking forward to. You're filling
Some
someone's hours.
some of my favorite things to listen to, I just put them on as like background.
Yeah.
And this one possibly because we go a long time when we're reading transcripts. My goal, even if you don't pick up every detail, you'll listen, while you're doing something else. You'll pick out a few details that you didn't know about, and you'll go back to it later. Yeah, keep listening repeatedly. But yeah, that's all I want to do. If you
When
learn
you
one thing per episode, it's worth it to me.
when you're playing video games and that's your
That's the
background
that's the
thing, it's
best
the
thing ever.
ultimate. It's the ultimate. It's the great thing that when you become someone's video game accompaniment in the background. I have done it myself many times. You need something long so you're not constantly pausing the game to change it. And when the podcasts are too short, I just never dig it. I always want a little more. And I know they do it on purpose to try to get views because it is so short, or they're trying to break it up. But I like a good long podcast.
Well, it's
Anything
also
under an hour and
it's
a half, I don't.
easy. I can't imagine doing a 10-minute video.
No,
I made
no.
a
It's why
video.
bother? Why bother throwing it together if it's going to be that short?
If we're going to talk, we're going to have a conversation, and you can't do that in 5 minutes.
No, it's too fast food. It's too lazy. It's too. You need to dig in.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back to the next one. Exotic. I don't know if I've seen he or she. The name is Exotic. Hell yeah. I've been waiting for this one patiently. Love you guys. Thank you, Exotic. I don't know if you're on the where we know you from, if at all. Hopefully you're new. But thank you very much. Always great. You got any Depp musings, questions or comments, fire away here or an email. And this is J.I. Young, who we get from pretty much every week now.
Mm-hmm.
He writes, I've always thought of Depp as being kind of an ageless actor like Keanu Reeves and Tom Cruise, but after hearing this, he reminds me more of Mickey Rooney, bloated feet
wow.
included. What can you tell me about Mickey Rooney's gout? I don't know a hell of a lot about Mickey Rooney. I know the basics,
I know
but I don't know.
Mickey Rooney somehow got all the hot chicks back in the day in Hollywood.
Do you think Depp is aging gracefully? I go back and forth on that. Sometimes I think no. Sometimes I think, look at Paul Rudd,
Mm-hmm.
right? He doesn't look any different. Everybody ages gracefully in that age group. Generation, what do you call him? Generation Y,
Yeah, probably.
or whatever that is, and then or like that late stage baby boomer, and then Generation X. They're all doing things to keep themselves aged. They all look good. They all look like they haven't aged. That's the generation before that. People got old, and you saw it, and you call it. Now there's all sorts of hocus pocus, plastic surgeries and chemical peels and liposuction and insane stuff where they do when they disappear for months and months and come back, and hair grafting and hair plugs and fillers, and they all do it. They all do it, and he has punished himself so much with substances and stuff. There are days where I genuinely think he looks old. Not so much that he doesn't look. Can you tell he's 58? Sometimes.
I think when they try, like when they put on the accessories and the little dab of Maybelline, and they try to look young, they just look older. And it's more obvious, what they're trying to do. I'm looking at pictures of Mickey Rooney now. Thanks.
Now Depp has some weird scarrings, and his throat looks strange. If you're wondering why he wears, the scarves are a ridiculous accessory, and he's been doing it. It's part of that rock and roll kind of irritating accoutrement that he has. But he's also seems to be covering his throat, and all the smoking issues he's had, and a lot of drug stuff. There's something, if you get a good look at his throat in a clear picture HD, there's something. What is that inverted thing now you see? I don't know what the term for it is, but it's got the shriveled turkey neck kind of
Is it just an
thing.
old man neck? Because I doubt he
I guess
uses.
it's just old man. Yeah.
He never seemed to be the type that would use moisturizers to keep the neck wrinkle free. So he's just a typical older guy.
And that's one instance where you can tell his age if you look at his neck.
That's an
Get a
indicator for
clear
men and
shot of it.
women.
Yeah.
The hands and
They
the
don't all
men.
have it. Yep. What the hell? And I think it was J.I. Young that had a question it was a comment in one of the former threads, and I remember it. And if I'm getting the commenter wrong, I think it's J.I. Young. It could be. And they said that Depp we were talking about him in violent scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something like, I don't think of Depp as being someone who, can handle himself. I think I can't picture him fighting or grappling or in a fighting scenario. And I think we're talking about the succubus abuse thing. I disagree with that. I know his history. He has been a noted brawler.
We've been looking for you, punks.
Take him out! Take him out!
This guy is gonna fucking kill you. You understand what I'm saying? Now we got about 2 minutes to figure a way out of this thing. I'm sorry. You're sorry? You shut the fuck up.
In a very small way, but since he has gotten into scrapes from 21 times he was living in a hotel in 21 Jump Street, fighting with security, fighting with paparazzi, he's gotten
Couches.
into bar brawl. What?
Fighting with a couch in a hotel room.
Fighting with a couch with Kate Moss in a hotel room. Tom Chiusano fighting with a suit. And I'm not saying he's Keanu Reeves and The Matrix and has that kind of prowess, but he was kind of a scrapper and a chip on his shoulder kind of brawler through his years of just kind of growing up as white trash in Florida and being kind of so. If you watch movies, and I'm not saying obviously, it's a movie and it's, you're doing scenes over and over again, but even on 21 Jump Street and into Black Mass and a lot of the crime biopics, Donnie Brasco, there's a scene in Donnie Brasco where he goes to the strip club and he takes Serpico, that's Frank Serpico, I think it is his son, is playing the strip club owner, and he has to impress Lefty. And he grabs him by the back of the head and throws him onto the stripper runway and slaps him around. Those are graceful scenes of violence. It really looks like he can handle himself. Like it's a smooth looking. He handles, and there's a serpentine, violent choreography in Black Mass, which you cited too, when he chokes out this, and there's a tons of really quick violent scenes in Black Mass, and to me, it looks very convincing. The few scenes in Brasco where it's violent, it really looks convincing.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike DiCaprio, say, who looks ridiculous. Anytime he tries to play a tough guy, I am completely taken out of the movie. It looks forced and man-child.
Yeah, I still don't think he's gone through puberty yet. And he's what,
I know.
50? 45, 50?
48. I think he's 48.
Yeah.
But Depp looks, to me, very convincing when he has to do any kind of scene that's violence or hand-to-hand combat. And in 21 Jump Street, I thought he looked really good. Slapping around 15-year-olds in high school hallways. No, but there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat scenes in Jump Street. I always thought he pulled it off. He throws a really smooth right hook.
Mm-hmm.
If that answers your question. But I do think he can fight. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I picture him as, he's got to be toasted and drunk off his ass to fight. But yeah, I picture him doing that.
But he's gotten a lot of drunken harassment in like the Viper room when he's pissing at his stall and someone says, "How's Winona?" And I'm sure I think he's had to deal with, just public harassment, whereas some menhead hooligan tried to test him. And again, I'm not comparing him to your classic, but I just think he has had his share of brawls and he can handle himself when he has to.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. And that concludes our comments for this. We'll wrap it up. It's kind of a quick one for us.
Yeah, we just had today's video was posted, doing very well. I appreciate it, everybody. Might try to get this video out in the middle of the week because we're trying to do 2 a week.
One last thought. This is to MVDV, Melissa Vander Voigt. She was complaining that her comments weren't getting posted, and Fudgesicle did this too. that are people, if you do this, if this happens to you, let us know on Twitter or by email. We'll certainly read what you want to say, but also let us know if your comments are not making it onto the comments. I don't know if it's a setting we're doing. I have all comments cleared that I don't have to hit approval of any kind, but I can say from experience, when I comment on other people's videos on YouTube, I go in a lot of NBA full game videos. It's a lot of, it's not the only thing I post, but this happened to me in the last 2 weeks. It was an old school game from the late 80s I could post it, and I got all excited, and I wrote this manifesto about Xavier McDaniel and my love of the guy and certain parts of his career, and I just got all proud of it. It's like 3 paragraphs, well crafted. I hit send, it vanishes.
Yeah.
It was there for 2 seconds. I hit refresh, it vanished.
Well, even
tried.
you have to be careful with even comments, even more than the video you're watching. If a word even comes close to being a word on the
That's
list, then they're not going to post your comment.
That's a good point. Never thought of that. But this is so innocuous. My rant about McDaniel is so pristine. There was nothing you would think to block. I think there's just some weird glitches on YouTube is what it is. So my advice, if you do write something, copy and paste it before you hit send or post or however that and then save it somewhere and then send it to us on Twitter so you don't lose it. I know you know, especially MVDV, you put a lot of thought into what you write. It's very well crafted, and it's words like, I mean, could you imagine losing recalcitrant writing that? I would hate. It's the worst feeling in the world. Sarah, you've done it. I've done it. You've written this huge thing, and maybe you had your computer froze, or maybe it hit refresh and the thing just went away, and you spent 45 minutes crafting this thing and spelling and restructuring the paragraphs and sentences, and you're all proud of it, and it just vanished. And there's no worse feeling than that. It sucks the life out of you.
Yeah, just keep trying. Again, if there's a word that's iffy, they're not going to post your comment. They don't care about your comment. It's
And
more
let us know if
important.
that happens to you. If it's happening, you're posting and it's not showing up. Fudgesicle and MVDV. And like I said, if it before you hit comment, save it. Right click, copy it, and put it somewhere, and then send it to us an email or Twitter or something. I hate that would happen to someone.
And God forbid you use a word that may trigger somebody into some weird reaction.
Like recalcitrant.
Yeah.
we have recalcitrant on the ban list from there.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere on somebody's list. So, okay, let's wrap it up. I'm tired.
You sounded, Sarah. Great job in the video.
Is that an insult?
No, it's complimenting your work ethic because you released the video. Your Catherine Bigelow filmmaking skills. I think you were up very early doing it. It's my complimenting your double duty in the same day.
3:30. All right.
Yikes.
Appreciate
all right,
you,
thank
sir.
you, everyone.
Love you all, and good night.
Great job, Sarah.
Thank you too.